At that time, I could not even imagine that such a future awaited me. That's how, at my not-so-young age, I found myself in the ranks of students again, as if the previous adventures were not enough for me. It all ended in a great battle with monsters, bloodthirsty and terrible, where every battle could be the last. In these battles, where the victory of the monsters seemed inevitable, the surprise was my friendship with these creatures, in which the fire flared up around, illuminating everything around. Two young men faced each other, a fire burning between them, symbolizing their irreconcilability. "This is the end," thought the young man, having already warned his opponents that it would not be easy for them to pass. The main character of this story was Taylor McLaren, that's his name, and I, in this story, am only an insignificant thief, a third-rate character that flashes for a short moment. At first it seemed that I was just a pawn, invisible and unimportant in the background of the main events. But there was one but. Even secondary characters have their own unique approach and can change the course of the story. I don't need anyone's support, because my methods are unique and unpredictable for the main character. The average thief uses his methods not to win, but to get to the end of his story. I must survive and leave my mark on this world. Being an unworthy son of a respected noble family, I lost my place in academic society like an uninvited guest. They sought to remove me from the family registry for my outspoken language and obscene language. It seemed as if fate was mocking me, bringing my failures to the fore. Life has turned into a lottery, where winning is recognition, and losing is banishment from one's own home with words of thanks for my efforts. On the streets, anyone who saw Ed Lost Taylor immediately started talking about him as if he were the big news of the day. It seemed unfair to me, but the words of the people said otherwise, regarding me as a vile nobleman who deserved it. Everyone is looking for Ed Lost Taylor, but the truth is, it's not me. I started a game set in Sylvania Academy of Magic. The game, The Unfortunate Fate of the Swordsman of Sylvania, has become my favorite. Usually when you enter the game, the main characters are available on the webtoon. The eldest son of a large corporation, the talented young master of a crime clan, or an SSS rank hunter who breaks all the rules. But I, with no other options, got a third-rate thief kicked out of the dormitory at the very beginning of the game. People just wanted to discuss Ed, pointing fingers at him saying, "Look at him. He called for justice after all he had done, but it is not true that he lived a humble and simple life." So said the people who stood and pointed their fingers at him. Ed tried to ignore all these words addressed to him. Ed's numbers were far from the best, and the reason for his poor results was that these were not his true stats. He attended the Faculty of Magic, but his intelligence was at the level of a plinth, and his stamina was too low for a noble. This, in principle, is not surprising, because he was an ordinary participant at the beginning of this story. At first, I didn't particularly remember what happened to him at the beginning. I think I remembered that in the end, credits he was a beggar and kind of a stupid bum. This is quite logical, because this bully did not know anything about education, and he was suddenly thrown out into the street. He was lucky to be alive. Why I ended up in his body and how I got there remains a mystery that I cannot solve. But I'm not going to give up. There is not even a thought of defeat in my plans. I'll make it no matter the circumstances. The Academy is more like a city, the territory of which is the entire island of Arkan, than an educational institution. This is a wild forest located in the northeast. I tried to avoid the attention of the students and ended up spending half a day on the road trying to find shelter. My journey through Sylvania Academy was a true test of invisibility and survival amid treacherous eyes and an alien environment where every step could be decisive. This time was enough for me to understand my situation more deeply. At the beginning of the story, fortunately, although his family rejected him, he was not expelled from school. Sylvania Academy in today's world is a prestigious educational institution. Only graduating from it is enough to secure your future. Since the game takes place in an academy, I can use the knowledge gained from the previous 5 playthroughs to the fullest. This means that if I graduate, I will be able to lead a wonderful life without the troubles of the past. Therefore, my main goal is to successfully complete my studies at the academy. The problem is the high cost of tuition, but I hope to get a scholarship next semester to help me survive. Looks like I'll have to stay in these woods for a while. Fortunately, there is a stream nearby, and there are 10 days until school starts. During this time, I have to improve my skills to be on par with other students. I cast the Windblade spell over and over again. Then I collapsed, realizing that I could use magic. It was quite an exciting discovery at the very beginning of my journey, although I quickly got tired after 15 tries. The pulse was fast, and the hunger made me feel almost like when I was a child when my grandfather told about the times when the harvest was small and he ate bark from trees in the mountains to survive. Putting a cup in which I had collected water on the fire, I decided that the season of the tree would now be more useful than ever, because everything that can be eaten is now valued at its weight in gold. If you didn't look too closely, it really could have resembled a chicken breast. Bringing it to my mouth, I gathered my spirits. Tried to chew, but it turned out to be so hard that, after spitting out everything in my mouth, I realized that it was really disgusting. Thus began the second day of my survival adventure. A day of fasting and 2 days of nausea passed, after which I realized that you need to build a house out of wood. First, it was necessary to install a frame that would support the entire structure. The problem is that I only have 2 hands and I need 4 supports, so the construction promised to be difficult. When a log fell on me, I gathered my strength and got up again to build everything I planned, despite several failed attempts. The foundation of the building was ready, but I still had a lot of work to do. Sleeping on the bare ground was not an option, so I spread my clothes around to create at least some kind of bed for myself, although it was far from ideal, but there was no choice. It was already dusk outside, and a full moon was appearing in the sky, and the night passed by imperceptibly. In the morning, the dawn looked magical, with the sun shining its rays on everything around. That night was actually very trying, and I barely made it through. A window appeared with achievements after successful construction, but the difficulty was not even rated at 1 star out of 5. I was surprised to find that there was a crafting system here that I hadn't noticed before. Now I understand that manual labor is sometimes more effective than magic, especially for an ex-noble. Skill in the craft came to my aid as never before. My new project is an ordinary harpoon, the difficulty of which is rated at half stars. After 2 days of fasting and grueling physical work, I should have been absolutely exhausted, but desperation inspired me to move on, because I wanted only one thing: meat. The meat that floated in the river in the form of fish became my goal. After trying to use my ignite magic to start a fire quickly, I spent half an hour by the fire. There was only a week left until the start of my studies at the academy, so I had to continue in the same spirit. If I maintain this perseverance, I will be able to overcome any difficulties in the academy without much trouble. When I turned around, I saw the girl's golden hair shining in the rays of the setting sun. In my focus on survival, I forgot something very important. Of all the main characters, she was the one I least expected to meet here. I remember how Lostdaler was on his knees in the academy, and this girl ordered him to leave the educational institution. It was Princess Fiona who asked me in surprise, "You still haven't left?" She was the one who got Lostdaler kicked out of the dorm. Ed Lostdaler, using his status as a nobleman, harmed his childhood friend McLaren, for which he was later punished. But his revenge didn't stop there. He tried to falsify McLaren's results in the Sylvania Academy entrance exams. He was caught by a girl who came to pick up exam papers. Fiona Elias Cole, 3rd princess of the Cole Empire. Activating the insight ability allows Fiona to detect lies and conspiracies. Ed Lostdaler, who was in a pitiful state, apologizing through clenched teeth, was exposed thanks to Fiona's powers. And he got kicked out of the dorm. It seems everyone at the academy now hates him. And now I met the one from whom it was necessary to avoid more than anything. She immediately began to bombard me with questions, whether it was because of me that she was expelled from the academy, to which I replied that I was also a student, although expelled from the dormitory. She did not want to talk for a long time. Her look was full of disbelief. She simply pointed her finger in the direction and shouted, "In the course of not being able to see the scoundrel wandering around the academy, I will personally speak to the academic department about the need for your expulsion." I was so focused on the conversation that I didn't notice my fish in the pan starting to burn. The food is burning, but now there is a much more important problem. Princess Fiona does have enough power to get me expelled. Since this is the case and the sun is already setting, why shouldn't a member of the ruling family have guards armed to the teeth? I asked her. Who would have thought that a noble princess herself would appear in the night forest? "If you're trying to scare me by being unguarded, you're going to regret it," Fiona said. "But if you think I'm trying to scare you, you're wrong. I just wanted to do one thing, VJ. Let me thank you, Fiona." Getting down on one knee, I was ready to express my gratitude to her. Fiona instantly turned on her perceptiveness, trying to see if I was lying. The truth is in my words, and there is not a drop of falsehood in them. I immediately saw how she looked at me in surprise. Of course, it was the pure truth. The Lostdaler family is famous for their influence, but also for using their position to exploit civilians and conduct inhumane experiments in search of eternal life. Some will be put behind bars, others will be removed from their positions, and it can cost someone their life. But I was kicked out, and now I'm cold, extremely cold, but it's still better than death. In time, everything will fall into place. It will be better. I need to honestly convince Fiona that I have the key to the solution, but it seems the game is already over. Judging by the time that has passed since my banishment, there is about a week left until the start of training. For what reason could the princess come here alone, unguarded and in plain clothes? Her arrival here like this may mean she is taking an assessment test. an assignment from Professor Glass to determine her class. The task is to find the magic beads hidden in this forest. I decided to openly lay all the cards on the table and told her about her own plans. With emotions of anger, she said that she was not wrong and that I should seek my expulsion as soon as possible. But suddenly she shut up when I offered her my help. I advised her to go to the lake in the east of the forest. There she will see a small green island. On it is a large tree called the guardian tree of Marilda. At the root of this tree she will find the gift I left for her. Taking it in her hands, her face showed profound astonishment, and in her eyes one could see the gleam of this wondrous object. 3 days ago, Ed Lost-Taylor was known as a liar and a charlatan, but I can still clearly remember the state he was in then. Currently, he exudes the aura of a true prince, rejecting the roles previously assigned to him. He opened the way for me to this magical glow like a precious diamond, Fiona thought, watching him. Completion of the test marks a new beginning, announcing the end of the learning trial. Professor Glass, an authority in the world of magic, gathered students to present their findings. Magical beads. The students, like flowers in a variety of colors, stood in front of the professor, each holding a unique artifact. "Start with F class," Glass ordered, stressing the importance of finds containing true magic as the defining criteria for entry into A class. Ziggs, with his dark hair and penetrating green eyes, was the first to pass the test. Loretelle, with fiery hair and eyes reminiscent of forest lakes, proved her skill. "The last person to find a bead of incredible magical power near Marilda's guardian tree is Fiona," the professor announced proudly. Fiona's recognition as the best student was a testament to her extraordinary talent and perseverance. At that critical moment, when all the fish had already burned, the remnants of my strength evaporated, leaving me unable to even hold the spear in my hands. The new design, although primitive, was made with great skill. A fishing rod made of a branch turned into a blade, with a silk thread and a hook made of a nail, symbolized ingenuity and the ability to survive. From childhood, the third princess of the empire, Fiona Elias Cole, was distinguished by the ability to distinguish truth from deception, which made her intuition unshakable. This extraordinary insight gave her a reputation as someone who could not be fooled, making everyone respect her judgment. That is why I had no choice but to try to bypass her insight, risking unintended consequences that could lead to big problems. The reason I'm proud to call Princess Fiona the Princess of Justice is because of her failed class test. Failure has changed her, but if now the princess, who had a lot of influence at the beginning of the story, finds the golden bead and gets an A grade, no one can predict what will happen next. It was impossible to predict what events would unfold in the future. Even trying to avoid the exclusion won't help. My information will become useless and I'll be done with. Lucy Merrill is known as the best student in the class, who understands without additional words. There is a chance that everything will remain as it was before. Discernment always helps to discover the truth. Fiona sat there thoughtfully, wondering if the bead Ed had talked about really was. But after carefully examining it, it became obvious that it was not a gift from fate. At first, Princess Fiona hid her true identity because she was worried about how society would treat her when they found out who she really was. She wanted to show herself from the best side. Of course, the bead could have made Fiona do better on the tests, but she chose not to use it. After all, the title of Princess of Justice, which she will acquire in the future, was not based on a find or status, but on her own path to justice. This title is not the result of any ability or position. She will receive it for always following the right path. And as a newbie, she said she would never have gotten into that class without my help. It doesn't matter if he told the truth or lied. The princess can always find out, he reasoned. But he didn't know how deep her insight was. Although he believed that Fiona would fail the test, she was convinced of her own victory and was ready to prove him wrong. However, he did not lie because the princess, unfortunately, could not get into the A class. Now she felt powerless before the circumstances that had developed. Suddenly, the float sank into the water, and something pulled strongly on the line. It was a fish that would now become food. "It's a fish, it's caught, now it's dinner, and I'll be able to eat well," he thought with relief. Outside, the weather was wonderful. A light breeze was blowing, scattering the scents of flowers. I live in a city where I have to leave at dawn to make it to class on time. In a hurry, I could hardly catch my breath from fatigue, but I continued to run. But there was one plus in this daily bustle. I am learning. And my education does not take place elsewhere, but at the prestigious Sylvania Academy. The opening ceremony of the new school year usually shows how our students have become stronger before the start of the new semester. It is announced to enjoy the prepared food while listening to a lecture by a professor of this academy. The announcement rang out. At the entrance, I was greeted by the soft whisper of a survivor. Such was the reward of the winner, words of gratitude from those whom he saved. I was ready to enjoy it at my leisure. My goal was to finish my studies here, I thought, looking thoughtfully at the academy. The girls standing next to me discussed me, saying that this is the same sophomore who failed the entrance exam, but added that I seemed to have changed, because now I eat lunch culturally. It's very strange, but I want everything to remain as it is, without changes, I thought, watching the life of the academy. This feeling that I became something bigger for her did not leave the girl. Today is my first day at Sylvania Academy, a day of new challenges and opportunities. At the opening ceremony, the words were heard. It is nice to see that even before the beginning of the new semester, our students have become stronger, and the work done by the professors of the academy was not in vain. But already on the first day, an event happened that could be the end of my educational career here. I was almost expelled from the academy for a misunderstanding that almost turned fatal. I didn't expect Fiona to tell the headmaster about me, but luckily it was clear from her words that she didn't say anything bad to him, because the historian was smiling during the conversation. Still, I barely managed to avoid the worst: expulsion from the academy. Now I had to be more careful so that the story of my stay at the academy did not go down an undesirable path. My specialty is a beginner archer with shooting skills, first level. I'm honing my survival skills. I'm studying magic, since I'm in the relevant faculty. The bow is the best weapon that allows me to maximize my skills as I improve my skills and learn how to make high-quality arrows. Then I can summon a spirit for them or use magic formulas, opening new horizons of my possibilities. Of course, spiritual formulas beyond my talent always seem to me to be something unattainable, but at the same time magically attractive. A beautiful girl sat under the shade of a large tree, intently reading a book. It was Yanika Failover, a second-year student known for her unsurpassed talent for summoning spirits and considered the best in her class. Her beauty was boundless, and her eyes seemed to contain a whole magical world. Meeting her gaze, she asked, "Are you the wonderful boy Marilda told me about?" At the meeting, her joy was boundless, and she showed a desire to get acquainted, quickly approaching me so that I did not even have time to recover. It was clear from her appearance that she liked me. "This forest belongs to Marilda. She is a high-level spirit, and I heard a lot of good things about you from her," the girl shared. Marilda was a very interesting creature who always followed the events around her. "I killed many and made a whole bunch of trees." I decided to admit it to her right away, to which she replied that I should not worry about it because these are normal events. Such is the cycle of life here. It seemed to me that even a large wild wolf could have a tender heart. It was completely unexpected for me. She clearly wanted to show me something special. Holding out her hands in front of me, she held something elusive and said that she had made a contract with it yesterday when she first saw me. It was a spirit that Yanika had recently contracted, opening up new possibilities for both of them. To make friends with Yanika, it was enough just to guess the right moment for communication. However, I had a problem. I couldn't see any spirits. Moreover, it seemed that I had no ability to see them at all. I had to say goodbye to Yanika, because I was busy looking for food. Only by following the plot will I be able to benefit from my knowledge. Yanika Failover turned out to be a very important character that I could never get too close to. I moved further and further away from her without looking back. She stood there, deep in thought about our recent conversation, which had left an imprint on her heart. My words that even a large wild wolf has a tender heart impressed her the most. Stroking this beautiful creature, she agreed with me, recognizing me as an amazing person. She never seemed to see Marilda. Also, when she tried to be gentle with me, I only answered with a vague yeah. The hope of meeting me again has already arisen in her thoughts. Marilda could not answer the question of whether we would actually meet again, leaving the future uncertain. The distance between my shelter and the student dormitory is quite significant. Every morning, just before dawn, I set off at a fast run to the academy, the road to which forces me to do strange things that, in turn, improve my stats. To apply for a scholarship, you need to study with special attention. My notes are kept on a stone slab with a pointed stick, and I borrow books from the library. When I get home, I change into my everyday clothes, cleaning them of the burden of the day. By the end of the day, it may seem like I have no energy left, but I keep going. It is vitally important to check the supply of drinking water and cured meat for dinner, which leaves me with only 4 hours of sleep. But what worries me the most is something else entirely. A girl looked at me from behind the bushes. I asked how long she planned to keep following me. She was surprised that I noticed her, but in this situation it was hard not to notice her. "You don't know who I am. I'm Ed Lostdaler, the worst of the troublemakers," I immediately asked her. "Well, only others think that way about you." Her answer surprised me. "I don't know you at all yet," she said, smiling magically. "Anyway, Yanika is just such a character who seems naive and simple-minded but has an independent character. Knowing what the future holds for her, it's best to just smile back. As I am Nika, the final boss of the first episode, I have a tough challenge ahead of me. She is the only character who smiles at Lostdaler. I didn't want to go that far, but circumstances forced me. Since fate brought us together, maybe you could help me? I asked her with hope. As you can see, I am surrounded by complete chaos. My family has abandoned me. I'm in a difficult situation. I shared my troubles. Could you lend me some money? I cautiously turned to her with a request. I promise that I will definitely return it, I sincerely assured her. Yannicka receives a scholarship every year for her high academic achievements, but from her humble background, it was a real test. She was born on a small ranch, and her Achilles heel has always been finances. She refused me because she did not have the opportunity to borrow money. I realized that I can't count on easy solutions, and I have to manage on my own. 3 days later, the feeling of discomfort did not leave me, but I realized that I needed to keep my distance from the key characters. I understood that it is necessary to act more carefully so as not to deviate from the idea of VDJAB the story. As I got closer to my tent, I felt my position in this world begin to change. I was surprised when I realized that in her eyes I became more special than Yannicka, the object of admiration of my classmates and even professors. This realization gave me confidence and made me reconsider my own goals and ambitions. Now, with a new purpose, I was ready to face the challenges that lay ahead of me with a fresh perspective on the opportunities that lay ahead. Lucy Merrill, possessor of the rarest talent and the strongest spirit among the failed swordsmen of Sylvania, unexpectedly appeared in my life. How the hell is she sleeping right in my bedroom? This question exploded in my head with incredible force. She came to the mountain valley with an unknown purpose, but when she got up, she remarked to me that I was making too much noise, and here, she said, it was simply impossible to concentrate. But anyway, this is my own home, I thought indignantly, unable to accept her claims. Pointing her finger behind me, she said that the wolf standing there was bigger than my house, trying to convince me of the reality of her words. And she surprised me, claiming that this wolf knows how to talk to me. When I returned, I felt surprised, but the wolf was not around, which only added to the mystery of the situation. He, like a spirit traveling nearby, addressed me with a request that echoed in my heart. The request, save Yannicka at any cost, which sounded from him, made it clear that the stakes in this story were extremely high. He was more spirit than flesh, and because of that I could not see him, but his words resonated with me with unexpected force. That's all well and good, but how can I help if I can't even see him myself? I thought, feeling a growing embarrassment. By the way, there is one more but. My thoughts were intertwined, trying to find a way out of this confusing situation. I wondered if it was really possible to put an end to the story with Yannicka, who suddenly became my debt. Is it going to be a hard time, and why exactly is she sleeping here in my bed? Thinking about the future filled my mind with anxiety. Because I just want to go back to my peaceful sleep, I concluded, feeling tired from all these unexpected turns. Lucy, who is often compared to a wildcat, has a unique ability to move through space thanks to her leaps, which amazes the imagination. Whether it's the top of a clock tower or the roof of a house, she always finds the perfect spot to snooze in the sun. My camp is set up in the deepest forest in the north of Arkan, a place that seems like a forgotten world. However, for Lucy, remoteness and lack of human presence did not become an obstacle. On the contrary, the cool breeze and the sound of the stream only added to the attraction of the place. Lucy shared with me that this place was perfect for a vacation, making me admit that I had made a good choice. From the morning of the next day, I already knew that I had to find a solution to our unusual situation. Mysterious figures appeared in the air, which Lucy drew using a flight spell while half asleep. I realized that following her could lead to unexpected changes in the plot of our story. My new creation, the lasso trap, was completed, marking a new level of my skill with a 2-star difficulty. She sat next to me asking me profound questions, among which was a request for dried meat. It became obvious that it would be difficult to find a common language with her, because her return shows her intention to return again and again. I need to come up with a plan urgently, I thought, recalling details about her from the many game guides. Her ability to find peace even in the most remote corners of the world left me both fascinated and alarmed. Thinking about how to best use my new lasso trap occupied my thoughts for the rest of the day, and although the answers to her deep questions were unexpected, they opened up a new dimension to our interaction. It's clear that I won't be able to beat Lucy, but I came up with one clever idea. I began to tell her that on the way here I met Ophelisa's maid who was looking for her. This news shocked Lucy. She immediately remembered some urgent matter. "It's time for me," she said hastily and jumped up, disappearing from sight in a way not described in any guidebook. Usually players ignore the text part at the beginning of the game where it says that Lucy avoids the annoying maid that looks like her mother every day. Lucy Merrill spent only 2 days in the camp, but her escape should not affect the main plot. It's time to get to work, I thought, taking the tool in my hands and going into the forest. I soon realized that I had been reassuring myself in vain. Joint combat training awaited us. Joint combat training is one-on-one combat training where students use training weapons to minimize the risk of injury. Students of the magical faculty use basic elemental magic, while students of the wizarding faculty are prohibited from using strong potions and powerful rituals. The order of battles between people with high compatibility is determined randomly. Everyone is assigned an opponent. The goal is to allow students to interact with someone from another class. All key characters are involved. But even with all these rules, the main character, the failed swordsman Taylor, remains the most important participant. The audience was excited to see Taylor fight, but I already knew the results and didn't really care about how the fights went. After all, the winners usually become the favorites and Taylor himself. But I decided to watch the events when Yannicka Failover, a second-year student, suddenly appeared next to me. It was incredible to see her happily run up to me despite my recent meek request for money. Unlike Lucy, who resembles a member of the feline family, Yannicka undoubtedly had canine features. She was standing next to me, holding the list of participants, but I didn't care who was participating until I saw one name there, which surprised me a lot. I wondered if I would also have to participate in these competitions. It was a surprise to find out that my opponent will be Fiona Elias, whose name has caused a lot of emotions up to this point. The names of those who were to enter the arena first came over the loudspeaker: Lucy Merrill and Taylor McLaurin, both ready to show their full potential. But right now, it didn't matter who I was going up against. My focus was on Taylor. I spent a long time in this virtual world, going through many unfortunate and tragic endings, but leaving a lasting impression. This journey was endless, and among the multitude of paths, there was not one easy one. I've already decided that I'm going to get my life together, but I'm also going to support Taylor. The name of Lucy Merrill, who was being searched for in the crowd, sounded from the loudspeaker. She was asked to go into battle when she was ready, which made me wonder where Lucy could have gone. Her hair became visible under one of the stands, which made it clear where she was hiding. I realized that it was necessary to wake up Lucy so that she would quickly come to her senses and enter the arena, because canceling the duel would mean victory for her. In that fateful moment when Taylor first wraps her arms around her sword, the atmosphere is filled with a sense of importance. Her thoughts are intertwined with hunger, and she can't help but ask about the availability of dried meat. Despite her pleas, I insisted that she test herself first in a match where freshman Lucy Merrill became her opponent, promising a competition of heightened attention. The protagonist of our world, destined to become a swordsman, has never held a sword before, but on his first try, he is able to break through Lucy's storm magic, which has been steadfast until now. Lucy is confident that her spells will stop any blow, but they break when Taylor closes in on her, leaving her defenseless. At the crucial moment, Lucy unknowingly releases a mid-level lightning bolt, hoping to defeat Taylor, but it turns out to be a misstep. She is disqualified for using magic of the wrong level, and Taylor gains honor and respect as the first to defeat Lucy. This scene becomes legendary, forever engraved in the history of the competition. At the start, attention, march, and with these words, an unforgettable battle begins. The fight is called, and Taylor comes at Lucy with determination, but suddenly a whirlwind of magic opens before him, which changes the course of the battle in an instant. The magic throws Taylor against the wall, leaving him stunned and speechless. Eyewitnesses to the competition are too surprised to express any reaction as they watch the unfolding of events. You can tell from the look on Lucy's face that she took this step with ease, as if it was just a small test for her. Sitting next to the wall, Taylor realizes that it was impossible to beat the best student in the class. Taylor's life has always been a continuous chain of trials. He is a simple boy from the village who lags behind in academics. This loser had never received a single decent grade since entering the academy, suffering failure after failure. Believing himself to be unacknowledged incompetence, he stands aside while other students conclude that he is an object of judgment and contempt. Being at an extreme disadvantage, pitied by everyone around him, Taylor is under pressure from all sides. But even when he finds himself in a hopeless situation, he is not going to fold his hands and lose the last spark of hope. I watched him without losing faith in his strength and encouraged him, believing that he would be able to overcome all obstacles. Like lightning, he rushes forward, aiming for his target, with unwavering determination in his eyes. Lucy Merrill, who was standing opposite, felt a growing awe as she watched him rush towards her with indescribable speed. It was obvious that she was preparing to use her lightning magic to stop his onslaught. However, not everything went according to plan, and the situation suddenly changed. An enemy sword suddenly appeared in front of her face, which she kept at a distance with the help of her magic. Breaking through this vortex of magic she had created around the sword seemed almost impossible. Despite all attempts and efforts, it was not possible to pass through this magical barrier. A huge green monster suddenly appeared from the small ball of magic she was controlling, ready for battle. This monster that appeared out of nowhere was a new twist in this incredible story, adding even more tension to the already electrifying atmosphere. The monster threw the young man and his sword far back with a force that made everyone gasp. I remained stunned as I watched this dramatic scene unfold before me. He ended up hanging from the wall above the audience, thrown back with such force that it looked almost unbelievable. But it was not the action of lightning, as it might seem at first glance. It was the wind VDJ, her magic of the highest order, showing off Lucy's incredible skill. Victory belongs to Lucy Merrill. The words of victory were heard, and all the tribunes stood up to loudly applaud her. He was lying under the wall, barely breathing after the powerful attack that made him feel the full weight of defeat. Compassion came over me as I watched his defeat, feeling deep pity for him. The battle turned out to be incredibly exciting, with results that impressed everyone present. Oh, that was a big problem, because his situation now required special attention. He definitely cannot be left alone now, especially after such an ordeal. Wind defense is a wind spirit power that automatically protects against unexpected attacks. This magic works continuously and can be obtained by making a contract with a higher-level wind spirit Marilda. Lucy and Marilda's story was complicated, but thanks to this event when Lucy asked for help, they were able to make a contract and Lucy became much stronger. The next fight is billed as a contest between Ed Loyster and the revered Princess Fiona Elias Cole, promising to be a spectacle of immense proportions. Last time, Taylor faced a chance to win, a moment that could be the starting point of his revival and confidence in his own abilities. The expected victory should have given him the strength to raise his sword with renewed determination, but Fiona prevented it, giving him no chance to recover. He was defeated because of me, because of my decision to keep Ed in the academy, Taylor mused, reflecting on his own choice. Not sure if that makes sense, but it's better than standing by. I had to stop him, he reasoned, trying to justify his actions. Calling out to Taylor, "Hold on, Taylor, your efforts will definitely pay off." He tried to cheer him up. "Don't despair now. I'm here to support you because if your spirit is broken, I'll end up doing the heavy lifting," he continued. He sought to raise Taylor's fighting spirit as much as possible, reminding him of the importance of maintaining dignity in all life's trials. He emphasized that the academy is a place where you have to stand firm, regardless of what trials await you. The first person to discover Fiona's innate insight was Emperor Cole, who noted her special ability. This ability, which seemed to be given for a reason, became her shield and sword in the world of endless intrigues of the ruling family. In the darkness that surrounded the princess, she developed this ability as a means of survival and protection. That is why she could be sure of the effectiveness of her unique ability, which gave her an advantage in difficult situations. Relatives always looked at Fiona with hidden darkness in their eyes, but she always saw through their intentions. When he found himself in a difficult situation, he, unaware of his power, realized that he had no choice but to delve into the depths of his own inner world to find answers. Our confrontation was inevitable, like dark clouds gathering over the horizon, promising an unrelenting storm. The spring morning could not contain my attempt to console the defeated warrior, not realizing that I was inspiring him to new battles. She understood with unwavering confidence all the nuances that were happening around her, as if she was reading between the lines of fate. He masterfully manipulated his status to humiliate his opponent's girlfriend, using power as a weapon. But when the situation did not go according to his plan, he decided without hesitation to manipulate the test results, showing his true nature. He was always distinguished by such behavior, but deep in our hearts we hoped for his change. Perhaps time and circumstances forced him to reconsider his views and change, or he remained unchanged, faithful to his principles and habits. His loud cry, which sounded like a call not to succumb to circumstances, inspired the young fighter like a beacon of hope in the darkness. His posture and confidence radiated the image of a real man who is not afraid to openly express his feelings. Thus begins a new battle filled with uncertainty, but also with opportunities for change. Fiona found herself in the grip of confusion, trying to find a way out of a difficult life situation. She wanted this battle to shed light on the tangled events, revealing true motives and feelings. Deciding to act first, Fiona chose the path of subtle magic, ready to use her knowledge and power to uncover the truth. Ed mastered the magic of wind and fire, using these elements as weapons in his battles. In the exchange of blows, he was ready to throw all the accumulated energy at the opponent, creating a whirlwind of emotions and power. Their dramatic confrontation could be the key for Fiona to banish the mysterious young man from her mind. A powerful blow of magic sent Ed flying backwards, feeling a sharp pain in his chest. Fiona, watching the fight, could not understand how this could happen, remaining lost in her attempts to explain the events. I can't believe how mentally exhausted she was in the first place. Lying on the ground, he realized that he couldn't just pretend that the battle wasn't over yet. Fiona was amazed at his devotion and courage, unable to express her admiration in words. He could clearly see the trajectory of the water layer flying towards him, but still accepted the challenge. Spectators in the arena loudly expressed their surprise, comparing Ed to Taylor, saying that he acts bravely, but did not even last the first round. On the other hand, everyone raved about Fiona, calling her fights a real breath of fresh air. Approaching Fiona, I expressed my admiration for the fight, saying that it was an unforgettable experience even though she didn't understand what I said. Fiona thought about the fact that even when she entered the arena, our eyes did not meet, placing special importance on it. Victory in the battle was officially awarded to Fiona, declaring her invincible in this arena. When communicating with the princess, you should be careful not to change the course of events because her role in this story turned out to be key. But now it is much more important to find out where the main character of this story has disappeared. Perhaps he got lost somewhere in the darkness of the forest, or hid in the depths of his own world. While searching for the main character, when I opened the door, my name was suddenly called out. Before me stood the princess. But why is she here, and most interestingly, without an escort? Without further ado, I had many questions about what had happened and what this unexpected meeting meant. The princess seemed to understand that for me it was not victory that was more important, but something else. And this surprised her very much. She already had her own problems and worries, but now my thoughts added to her worries. I can't believe how mentally exhausted she was in the first place. Placing my hands on her shoulders, I tried to relieve the tension by massaging her to make her feel better. I even asked her to take a deep breath and exhale clearly to calm herself down, because she was overworking herself. Inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale. It seemed to help her calm down. The princess felt a pleasant tingling sensation on her body from the gentle massage. Her cheeks were flushed with sadness, and butterflies flew in her stomach with excitement. The moment has come when everything passes and we can only relax. I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to find Taylor and beg her to let her go. She decided to approach directly and ask, "You've been questioning cutting ties with your family because you know their dark side, and you're wondering if you want to be kicked out of the house." That was her question. A very harsh statement, even if it is not true. Taylor's new family does have a dark side. However, this information will become known only in the future. It is too early to discuss it now. Fiona was angry. She wanted to solve the puzzle in her head. Why did I have to yell at Taylor? Why encourage and support someone who wanted to frame me? Did I dislike him from the beginning? I told her that I just wanted to make fun of him, but she immediately asked to look into her eyes. Discernment sees lies everywhere. She easily saw that it was all a lie. Her superpower is highly honed, and my nose grew a lot in her eyes from lies. But she still had no proof. In addition, all my hope is that the plot will change. Fiona agreed that she had no evidence, so we'll end it for now. Her head is already boiling. Finally, she let me go, pointing to the door. In the end, it dawned on her that I had some business. She opened the door and I walked out, surprised by her sudden reaction. Thanking you, I cautiously approached the door, feeling a slight flutter in my chest. For the first time, Fiona revealed to me such an unexpected side of her personality. She, from the very beginning, decided to take on the role of a key player, interacting with a lot of people and events that would literally make my head spin. It's my own fault that I ended up where I clearly don't belong. As I walked out the door, I turned to Fiona. Could my burden be comparable to yours? I may be overstepping the mark a bit, but you look extremely tired. Paying attention to the challenges is important, but you should relax a bit. Sylvania Academy is not the place where you have to worry about every little thing. Throughout her life, Fiona tried to unravel the essence of the people around her. But the moment came when finally, someone was able to read her herself, look into the depths of her soul. It's terrible. I've wasted so much time. If the secret is revealed, my peaceful existence and possibly the whole world will be on the verge of disappearing. I should have found answers sooner. He sat with a broken sword in his hands, his head down, wrapped in a veil of disappointment. I had to find the words to help him lift his head again. A girl suddenly appeared between us, becoming an immovable obstacle on my way. "You don't have to bother Taylor anymore," she said sternly. It was Ayla Triss, the main character of our story. She started insisting that Taylor was having a hard enough time without me. "It's not worth further aggravating his already difficult condition," she added with concern in her voice. I heard a question from Taylor that made me think, "Are you still in the academy?" These are the words that echoed in my heart, like a distant echo of forgotten dreams. Is it the fighting spirit that never gives up, no matter how strong the opponent is returned to him? Such a question arose in my mind, observing his steadfast endurance and determination. Unshakable willpower clearly shone in his eyes, which testified to the inner strength and invincibility of the spirit. I realized that in our battle with the princess, his old childhood friend and loyal supporter, Ilatrus, had not hesitated to run after him, ready to support him at any moment. She, without even looking back, began to support him, which testified to her unbreakable loyalty and willingness to stand up for her friends. Standing on his feet, steadfast and determined, he asked me if I had any business with him, looking me straight in the eye with a challenge. I told him that he was a skilled swordsman, because I had personally seen how skillfully he did it in battle. I went through many trials with him, and together we reached the very end of this difficult path, overcoming all obstacles steadfastly and steadfastly. To be honest, I thought about how difficult it is sometimes to find true friends who are willing to follow you through fire and water. But he proved that such people do exist. And in that moment, I realized that true friendship and courage are what make us stronger, no matter what challenges we face. And since he has taken on the mission to save the world, I can only take care of my own survival. Although I worry about him, because he is the main character of the game, who, unlike me, will have to complete this extremely difficult task. But now there was a sense of relief in my heart, not because the story had deviated from the original, but because it had once again returned to its usual channels. It's a relief that Tyler, who I've played for so long, has turned out well. I don't need anything else. His well-being is all that matters to me. Their discussion soon turned to the question, why am I trying to sound cooler than I really am? Apparently, it is impossible to do without this mask in our world. It seems that this need to make ourselves cool is an integral part of our lives, because everyone always discusses and analyzes our every step. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. It seemed that the time had come when action should speak louder than words. In the original, all the characters were in the arena when this story-changing event occurred. And so, magic began to be used openly, revealing new horizons of opportunities and threats to the participants of events. What magic the girl possessed, she did it with incredible confidence, especially during the fight between the golden daughter Loratel and the spiritual mage Yannicka Failover. This match was not just a contest of powers, but a clash of two worlds, where Yannicka Failover, with her deep connection to the spirits, stood against the invincible Loratel. The plot relentlessly moved forward, twisting this story into unpredictable twists and turns. Yannicka Failover and daughter Loratel were not just strong fighters, they were legends whose power was both admired and feared. I'm sure that Taylor and Isla, standing in the shadows, could see this confrontation that lit up the night with an unparalleled brilliance of magic and power. Taylor had to be extra careful, as this confrontation was just one of many trials he had to go through, where the first final boss awaited him along the way. And this boss was not just powerful and experienced. She possessed a power that seemed almost invincible, the power of Yannicka Failover. The girl who skillfully managed the magic of Yannicka Failover became the real star of this story, demonstrating her unparalleled skill. After her victory, everyone congratulated Yannicka, who became the only one from their course who was able to defeat the novice. She possessed not only beauty and charm, but also great spiritual power. This victory not only highlighted her unique talents, but also proved that she was gifted not only with external attractiveness, but also with incomparable inner strength and wisdom. Yannicka could not find words to express her gratitude. Her heart was overflowing with a great sense of gratitude, but the words seemed too simple. Sharply against the background of tense silence, the words rang out, "We are carrying a patient. Everyone step aside." It was an order that did not tolerate objections. They were carrying Yannicka's competitor, who had been badly hurt during the competition, exhausted but still proud. Yannicka was the pride of the sophomores. Her successes highlighted not only her personal skill, but also raised the prestige of the entire course. Contrary to expectations, Lucy defeated Taylor, and their battle training together turned out to be not only a competition, but also a valuable experience of cooperation. Yannicka Failover became the defender of part of the sophomores. Her leadership and ability to stand up for her teammates deserved the highest respect. Thanks to her character and dedication, Yannicka had many friends, and now that her life was gaining even more momentum, she was surrounded by support and friendship. Maybe it's for the best that I won't see her in the camp. Time to contact the main characters, he thought, feeling his head start to spin from all the events. It's been 2 weeks since they've been training together without the main characters, and this time has allowed them to focus on training and survival, including the creation of a fishing net that solved the food problem. My stats improved. Stamina increased to 6, intelligence was 5, talent was 9, Willpower was 8, luck was 6. I started to feel better, which reflected in my stamina stats. While a stat above 10 points is considered high, it's still too early to rest. A reminder that there's always room to grow and improve your skills. "Oh!" exclaimed the girl, covering her eyes with her hands, trying to avoid the awkward situation that suddenly arose. She watched me from behind the bushes and asked if I liked walking around naked, a question that made me wonder about the surprise of the situation. What the hell is she saying? I thought, when suddenly she appeared by herself, changing the course of my thoughts. She wanted to talk to me a little and ask for advice, looking for some wisdom or experience in me. Why me? I thought, thinking about what advice I can give her, given my experience and knowledge. She started to bring up the subject of working out together, sharing her experiences and doubts about recent events. The fact that she had hurt someone very badly, despite her opponent not having started using a medium-level spell, but the kind-hearted Yannicka still cared about it. The princess tried to forget, but still believed that she overdid it during the fight, which emphasizes her inner conflict and sense of responsibility. Her main question was whether to ask for forgiveness, revealing her desire to right wrongs and restore justice. If you think it's necessary to do it, then just take it and do it. These words seemed to give her the courage to act in accordance with her beliefs, reminding her of the power of responsibility for her own decisions. The cute and playful Yannicka is like a gem for everyone, radiating a light that attracts people to her with her immediacy and charm. Because of this, when she feels guilty or criticizes herself, people start comforting her, not wanting to see her upset. But Yannicka knows it's good to have allies, but that doesn't change the fact of the bad she did, emphasizing her maturity and self-criticism. Probably that is why she came to me. "You'll never just take my side," she told me, acknowledging my ability to be objective. We continued to immerse ourselves in conversation, discussing what had been done. Yannicka immediately looked at me and realized that I had changed. I was not who I was before. Janica is always smiling and a very cheerful girl, but also very observant. She noticed that when I first asked for money, I didn't act desperate like most people in my position. It is surprisingly comfortable with him. This is a feeling of lightness and coziness in our interaction, which appeared not by chance. Both talking and just being around in such a romantic setting turned out to be extremely easy, which only strengthened our connection. Night came, enveloping everything around in a soft darkness, creating the perfect background for our conversations and reflections, which continued under the soft rustling of leaves. Events are postponed to the next day, immersing us in new adventures and trials that await our heroes. Entering step by step, the shoes hit the floor, creating a rhythmic sound that echoed through the corridors, filling the space with a tense atmosphere. Things were going very badly. The news that reached them did not bode well, causing concern and alarm. The Unfinished Swordsman of Sylvania is a masterpiece, but only a few could see its ending, delving into the depths of its history. Newbies coming out on a couple of bad finals through it. If during the class determination test you save a girl during an attack by kobolds, then you become a witness to the secret of the Golden Daughter. In the monster slaying episode, if you assume Isla's childhood friend and insult the Golden Daughter, the ending ends with Ayla falling off a cliff. While Taylor has to save a falling Isla, if she protects the Golden Daughter from Tarkin's fiery spirit, nicknamed Yannicka, the ending ends with Taylor burning up. I needed to escape, but Chev J VJK. This pause builds tension, leaving room for uncertainty and possibility. I asked her what she wanted and got the answer. "I didn't think you would ignore me. Understand? I will do so, that's obvious." The fourth heroine of Sylvania's Unfinished Swordsman, and only daughter of business magnate Elth, who was cast on Lortel Kacheln, the Golden Daughter, enters the game with plans and ambitions of her own. She's already known as a rookie fighter, earning a reputation for her unwavering attitude to competition and ruthlessness towards her opponents. She wanted to buy 2 hours of my time, offering not just a meeting, but an opportunity to immerse herself in deep conversations and reflections. Lortel is a hidden character whose role and significance in the plot are not immediately revealed, leaving room for intrigue and unexpected twists. Unlike Fiona, she was treated as a villain from the beginning, but her true colors were not revealed until the second half of the story, forcing her to rethink her actions and motivations. As players began to realize the reality of Loratel's loneliness and suffering, they conflated her with Fiona, blurring the line between heroine and antagonist. There was no way I could follow her words. If I danced to her tune, I would lose the initiative and control over the situation. She asked to at least just listen to her, but I understood that one should not give in to her request so lightly, knowing the potential risks and consequences. She assumed different scenarios, analyzing my reaction and emotional state to determine the best way to influence me. One of them was that I was very irritable, which could have given her an advantage in our interaction, using my emotionality against me. She had heard about my vagueness and self-centeredness, but it didn't matter to her because her goals and desires outweighed any of my personality traits. She made her proposal, offering me 3 coins as an advance, as a sign of her seriousness and willingness to cooperate. She knew that Yannicka and I had become very close and asked for help in making friends with them, understanding the importance of strong ties and alliances. 3 coins for someone is an entire month's salary, reflecting the magnitude of the amount she was willing to offer for my services. But the Golden Daughter also establishes her connections with the help of money, using her wealth as a means of achieving her goals. She slipped them into my jacket, showing her determination and directness in her actions, and she put 3 gold coins in her pocket, sealing our agreement and her obligations to me. This girl feels that she has to fight with Princess Fiona for control of the academy, sensing the inevitability of conflict, and that it is worth starting to attract allies now, understanding the importance of preparation and advanced planning of one's actions. She did everything in a very planned way, with great attention to detail and strategy, to ensure she had the upper hand in the upcoming confrontation. I accepted her offer and offered to shake hands, making an informal agreement and acknowledging the beginning of our collaboration. For a person who has lived in abundance all his life, a sudden fall into poverty breaks his heart, like a fragile crystal that breaks into thousands of fragments. Falling into poverty breaks the heart, creating deep cracks in the soul that are difficult to heal. To the surprise of people faced with such difficulties, a fool's opportunity usually leads to collapse, like thin ice breaking underfoot. They in the end sell their family pride and even themselves for a gold coin, tearing the pages of their history. The desperate are the easiest to hunt, because they, like leaves flying in the wind, do not know where the next gust will take them. So probably, it should be in a world where every step can become a risk or a chance. They entered into a contract that became like a chain tightly entwining their destinies. I headed in the other direction, following the voice of my own conscience that echoed softly in my heart. If I had taken them with me, it would have been much easier for me. But unfortunately, of course, the choice does not always lie on the surface. But I can't even imagine what a nightmare I'll have to go through if I'm stuck between these newbie eaters and the soul-stirring Yannicka. It is necessary at all costs to avoid anything that could change the course of the plot. That same night, refusing to eat did not become an insult to Lorratel. Considering all the pros and cons, benefits, and personal interest, the ideal businessman will not miss any opportunity he can reach. Lorratel, her hair down, looked completely different, as if the night had transformed her into a different person. This awakened in her a vague desire to make Yannicka one of her people, as if it opened new horizons for her. Everyone around her was just talking about how she had used forbidden medium-level magic during their joint combat training, sparking surprise and anxiety. It has been a long time, but I would like to apologize now that the opportunity has presented itself, because they stood opposite each other and talked, finding a bridge between the past and the present. Her wounds hadn't even healed yet, showing the depth of her struggle and the trials she had endured. Yannicka, similar to the main heroine of fairy tales, seemed to be someone who could be easily manipulated by pressing the painful strings of war. She immediately asked if she and Ed had discussed everything, trying to feel solid ground beneath her feet in a sea of VJ uncertainty. She had always asked them to be restrained when the matter was personal, but her own emotions sometimes raged like a storm in the sea of her soul. But spirits like to communicate, especially those who live in the depths of the forest, where every whisper of nature becomes part of their communication. She heard most of the conversation near the northern part of the forest, where nature gave her its mystery, and she responded to the communication with the girl who addressed her. One thing comes out: she felt how these words barely touched her heart, penetrating inside from the depths of her soul. Although I was touched by your desire to invest in gold for my sake, you should know that sincere friendship is impossible without mutual devotion and understanding. But you must understand that money cannot buy sincerity. It comes from the heart and becomes the most valuable treasure in every person's life. But one thing seemed to me when she said these words frankly. Her kindness and warmth overflowed the space, making me stop and think about the meaning of true friendship. Her behavior, like her whole story, was much more interesting than she could have imagined, and it forced her to reconsider her own stereotypes and ideas. She thought she was too much of a show-off with her words, but the first time she got to talk to the younger cadet was exactly the moment she realized the importance of expressing her own feelings and thoughts. I will have to change my view of her because every person deserves the right to be considered individually, without prejudice. Yannicka, but the comparison with the main heroine of fairy tales gave her additional charm and mystery, which she lacked so much in the real world. She knows the dark side of the world, the mysterious windings of fate, shrouded in mystical gloom. But she did not lose her joy in life, which shone in her like a beacon of hope in the darkest night. The door closed with a barely audible groan as if echoing a time long gone. The conversation was not easy, full of silence that weighed on the shoulders like a blanket made of lead. But just now she said one very important thing, as if she was standing on the edge between the worlds, connecting them with an invisible bridge. I need to work harder, because every moment decides where the wheels of fate will turn. How wonderful it is when people expect good things from you, like the sun breaking through the clouds. In the sunlight, clothes dried on threads, painting a dance of shadows and light on the walls. An unpleasant smell hung in the air, as if the memory of something long forgotten was trying to return. I had just hung everything up, when suddenly things flew in different directions, like a flock of birds that had found freedom. Returning, I saw her silhouette in the dark, as if she appeared from another world. She was the head maid of the best dormitory in Sylvania, Ophelisa Belle Maya, whose reputation preceded her. Then she threw me out of the dormitory like a leaf in the wind without any explanation. The maid knew that I lived here. Mistress Yannicka often told her about me, sharing details of my everyday life. "I had no idea that you lived like this," said the maid, whose gaze pierced me through. "It's a good chance for me too," she said, hinting at the untold possibilities opening up for both of us. Belle's words passed my ears as my gaze continued to wander off into the distance, lost in my own thoughts. The maid of Phyllis is an elite group of women who perform all types of domestic work at the highest level, including cooking for the students. In that basket could be the exquisite ingredients she gathered in the forest, where every plant and every fruit had its own unique story. Similar information about prey and cooking cannot be obtained from the book. You need to remember the summer, the events in which Belle could influence the main plot, as if opening new horizons for our community. She allowed me to speak high-pitched, as I had been accustomed to do while in Ophelis, where no other language was acceptable. "Does a maid who works so hard deserve to be treated like this?" I asked her, questioning my own behavior. Belle, although she never directly influenced the main plot, left her mark at every turn, like a shadow that follows us. "Then I suppose it wouldn't be a problem if we characters became friends, or rather I was attracted to her basket," I mused, considering the possibilities of a new friendship. In the illuminated window, it was written that I had heard from Belle a story about various edible berries, mushrooms, and herbs that opened up a new world of nature to me. New finished product, fishing net, crafting difficulty 2. I'm now full of meat and fish. Food problem almost completely solved, I thought with relief. Memories, memories, memories. They were layered on top of each other, creating the palette of my life. It was very difficult, but each experience gave me strength and endurance, teaching me to face trials. But now, with fire magic at level 10 and air magic, Windblade also at level 10, I felt much stronger. I still only have 2 basic spells, but I've used them so many times that I've reached this impressive 10th level. A great new product, herbal tea with a difficulty rating of 1.5 out of 5 stars. Drinking it while chopping wood and cooking increases stamina, indicating completion of work before the sun sets. Actually, it was even fun. I like what I'm doing now. But at the most unexpected moment, something unexpected happened. There was a loud explosion, and I was thrown to the side from the camp. After the explosion, the fog enveloped everything around, and I could not see what was happening. I was pelted with rubble from my own campsite. My camp was completely destroyed, and the girl's silhouette began to appear in the fiery fog. She ended up here at the hands of Belle. As usual, I skipped class, but she, for some reason, was not in the mood, and her fists clenched terribly, even harder than usual. Everything happened so suddenly that I quickly teleported here. "I think it hurt a lot to get hit by her," said the girl, speaking without protection, "and it annoyed me a lot, especially that because of the bad aunt it happened here. What the hell kind of life does she have? I was strong, and she almost died flying here." It was Lucy. She was sitting in a white dress in the pit that had formed after her fall. She could barely regulate her breathing after the hard blow. Looking at her, I couldn't understand anything because she was the strongest person in the world. Annoyed by the whole thing, I threw a branch at her head, yelling that she's fucked up, and my whole apartment blew up. Annoyed at her nagging, I threw a branch at her head, screaming, and it blew my whole house. Why didn't she defend herself when I threw the stick at her? She seems to have used up all her magic while running away from the cleaning lady. It was also intended for the fact that my house was destroyed. I gave her a hard crack and screams echoed throughout the forest. I can hear her screaming, and I really need a much stronger home than before. With such a busy schedule, it's great that I can get knowledge from the library. All that remains is to learn about sanding wood and creating a roof. A girl approached me with the remark that the library was closing, and she was a beautiful girl. It was Elka and Island. She studied at the Faculty of Magic and was the firstborn. She seems to be asking with her eyes if I agree to give my real name. The specter of someone who works so hard, motivation only increases. It was extremely interesting, but I was still engrossed in my own mission. I finally answered confidently. My name is... Introducing myself, I said, "My name is Ed." Surprised, she repeated my name again, Ed Lostaylor. This reaction seemed quite familiar to me. Stupid fame doesn't come that fast, no wonder. Although I live in the last days according to my conscience, it does not mean anything. The girl remarked that I am completely different from how I am described. She was impressed that I had read all the Element Explorer books, and she was able to figure it out in just a couple of days. And today I mastered about 6 technical texts while I was sitting here. As she knows, people say I'm too self-absorbed or I seem to give up. People don't know anything. Bad hearing should not be trusted. She immediately became sure that I am an honest person. But she noted that she will cheer for me, wishing for a good journey. She said that she still needed to clean up and return to the dormitory, and we said goodbye to her. She didn't even have time to say goodbye to the end. Something unknown happened here. It feels like an earthquake when I was having trouble standing on my feet. My body swayed as if on the waves of the sea, and it seems that it was caused by an earthquake. The vulnerable girl withstood a powerful blow of fear that shook her soul. During this chaos, books fell from the shelves like a hail of rocks, almost injuring us. Episode 1 of the final chapter, The Confrontation of Glasscan, announced its dire prophecies. At 11:30 a.m., the temporary camp of students turned into a center of struggle for survival. Thanks to the courage of the main character, Taylor, and the efforts of his comrades, many students found shelter in this camp, which became an oasis in the midst of chaos. The girl spoke of her vision, inspired by the pages of a book of spiritual magic, which mentioned a rune that summoned a high-ranking spirit of darkness known as Glasscan. An unusual puzzle appeared before us. Would the strength of just one person, perhaps me, be enough for such a complex enchantment? Perhaps our enemy has set a trap, exploiting the vulnerability of a second-year student, Yannicka Failover, who has fallen under Glasscan's spell. The sad perception that emerges from all this demands our attention. Is Ayla right when she says that the barrier behind which the students are hiding has 2 sides? Does this barrier live long? Mused Taylor McLaurin, a freshman from the military faculty. Now, with the appearance of Glasscan, the losses will become even greater. We have to hurry to the student center, he emphasized, pushing others to action with his authority. People behind the barrier are quick to navigate when they have a common goal. The Imperial Guard and the professors will get down to business, said Claire, an Imperial Guard captain known for her discretion. If this is a spirit of darkness, then its barrier is strong. We have to find a way inside, added Aniston, a student of the Faculty of Alchemy, revealing the possibilities. Let's not be offended, we are even capable of such a thing, the girl tried to encourage, expressing confidence in the strength of their union. I object, shouted Ugruyam, emphasizing his fear, which was always known to everyone. The plan was to defeat the mid-ranking spirits and then the boss, but that's not all, there are still high-ranking spirits inside. Yannicka revealed the reality of the situation. 2 of them are the fire spirit Berserk Tarkin and the spirit of darkness Bellosphere, added Ugruyam, revealing the threat. I'm afraid and I won't go, he admitted, exposing his weakness. Everyone knows that Yannicka is the best student in the class, he added, emphasizing her authority. In a land of magic and wonder, where the power of the Bellosphere blossoms in the heart of a young girl with an average level of darkness spirit, the question arises, how is she able to summon spectators and other spirits at the same time? The secret lies in inner harmony and power over the forces of darkness, which, although hostile spirit magicians, are not able to control alone. Now that Yannicka, a recognized mage of the Academy, is under the control of the Bellosphere, she's at the peak of her magical skill. In this world, where the power and authority of magic is unpredictable, being able to control even the most skilled mage can prove to be an important advantage. And now, when we look at the situation, it becomes clear that the secret of success and power can be hidden in the careful observation of the second. A course of action must be decided, and only one person can do that, said the young man, raising his hand to address Princess Fiona. Princess Fiona, please tell us what we must do, he stated, keeping his expression calm and determined. At the moment when everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the princess's decision, she remembered the words of one boy. Whatever burden I carry, it cannot be compared to yours. You should relax a little. She remembered his wise words. Princess Fiona felt a calmness wash over her heart as she made her decision using the wisdom and self-belief she felt from that boy. It would be great if it was that simple, Fiona said, deciding that they would be leaving in an hour. Well, only Guardian Claire Fiona and the best students from each class will come out to demonstrate their abilities, she added as she handed out instructions. Fiona ordered us to prepare and tune in, the girl said, turning to her. I take the responsibility with pride, Fiona said, confidently backing up her words. We learned that the situation among those living in the teachers' area has changed significantly. The halls and potion archives are under attack, and probably no one from there will join us, she added, summing up. Looks like we're going to have to take the responsibility alone, Fiona admitted, looking around at her friends. But there is one, the girl began, running out of the library. I was leaving the library, and there was my friend, an apprentice librarian and a sophomore. Fiona immediately asked her name, to which the girl replied, Elka Island, barely having time to catch her breath after running. She wondered if her emotions had gotten mixed up, if she had definitely made a mistake. It seems that he felt differently about her, because he immediately rushed to her aid. He was sure that she would not have enough strength to defend herself. Fiona decided to stop the young man in his tracks, remembering that now the main problem is Yannicka. With difficulty, but the young man agreed to stay here with Fiona, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Fiona asked the girl if she was sure someone had been there, clarifying the details. Jix began shaking the girl and asking her if she was hiding anything. Out of fear, the girl began to say the words Ed. Jix became very angry when he found out that Ed Lostaylor was there. The girl started apologizing, saying that he sat there until closing. I got tired of waiting, and I left him on the Christmas tree. In their view, Ed was a very bad man. Yelka was not bothered by the rumors in any way, and because of this, she was not afraid to stay with him. Jix was furious. It was barely possible to stop him. Fiona asked him to gather all his strength and not sin. Just try to trust that guy. Although it was very difficult to trust someone about whom such rumors are circulating, it was very difficult for Fiona to carry such a burden of management. Jix became unlike himself, and he jumped high into the air and began to fly towards the library. The monsters that came his way were blue and gigantic. With great fury and power, he scattered them, screaming, "If you even touch her hair a little, I'll pulverize you, Ed Lostaylor." It was with such cries that he headed to the library. The expression from dirt to prince does not even remotely convey the incredible life of Jix, a grass spear, whose fate is intertwined with the charms of nature and the legends of antiquity. Judging by the size, it was an adult male. Given the condition of the bark of the trees around it, it appeared here very recently, leaving behind the mystery of its presence. Looking around among the eternal circles, he was looking for only one thing, something that would make his heart beat faster. It was a moose peeking out of the bushes, his gaze locked with Jix's, and the moment seemed like an eternity. The steppes in the north are wild lands, where the voice of civilization is lost in the vast expanses, and only the wind tells its stories. In this world, where after dark you check whether your head has left your shoulders, every day becomes a test of survival. Jix was born into a family of nomads who roamed these lands, and before he came of age he became separated from them, not knowing why he was banished or if he would ever be given a chance to return. He mastered the art of deer hunting long before he learned to read, and mastered the art of processing carcasses faster than the art of trading. It would be too much to say that he lived like a beast, but the people around him discussed him as a savage, a descendant of barbarians, and few could see anything more than that. One day he was asked about his name in the middle of the road, when he was dragging a deer carcass behind him, at that moment opening a new chapter in his life. In front of him stood an adorable pink-haired girl who looked at him with unearthly interest in her eyes as he introduced himself as Jix. With lightness and laughter, she noted that he reminded her of a wolf that could walk on two legs, as if a wild essence and a human personality had merged in him. At that moment, Jix suddenly saw his life from a completely different angle, as if discovering a new reality that he had not known before. Life in constant wanderings on the endless steppes of the north, surviving, devouring prey on the sides of roads, and sleeping in the open sky, made him feel like a rejected wolf pup, left alone with nature. During all this time, he felt a deep loneliness that followed him like a shadow, too heavy and impenetrable. But on the very day of their first meeting, Jix felt his usual feeling of loneliness suddenly leave him, as if it had been replaced by something new and indescribably warm. Yelka and her father welcomed him into their home without hesitation, opening the door to a new life for him, where he was able to find peace and acceptance. Trying to keep up with the fast rhythm of the civilized world, Jix almost forgot about his wild past, starting to appreciate every moment of his new life. Especially when it came to Yelka's safety, he was ready to do everything in his power to protect her from any threats. From now on, standing guard over her peace, Jix realized that he had found a new meaning of his existence, in which love and devotion became his main guides. For Yelka's sake, he was ready to turn into a wild beast again if it was necessary to protect her. I have heard how they discuss Lord Laura. They say that he manipulated the exams, insulted the princess, and even tried to win the heart of one of the firstborns. With his heart beating faster with determination, he rushed to the rescue, to save her from such danger as I was. Gaining speed, he rushed like a wind that knows no obstacles. He went straight to the library and addressed me, and I, until that moment, did not even realize who he was. Grabbing me by the collar, he resolutely asked where Yelka was and why I was here. I answered that Yelka was in the reading room on the 3rd floor, and he immediately rushed to her. Opening the door to the 3rd floor, he looked around the room, and then he saw a girl lying without strength, barely feeling her body. He carefully leaned toward her, full of anxiety and hope. He could not express all his gratitude to the Almighty for the fact that everything was in order with Yelka, feeling boundless joy at her well-being. Indeed, these books were so heavy that not every grown man could lift them, but they were located around Yelka as if creating a strong barrier. The curtains were drawn tightly to block off the room from unwanted views and possibly from outside forces, thus providing a measure of security. The board was engraved with strange spells and advice that had to be deciphered to understand their purpose. When you are left alone, don't panic and stay here. Everything will be resolved before sunset, and you will not be in any danger. Close the door and do not provoke the unknown. Remember your safety, read the inscription, which provided instructions and reassurance. Jix immediately understood that someone was trying to protect Yelka by putting care and warning into these words. Bloodstains were visible on the jacket lying on Yelka's legs, but fortunately it did not belong to her. Returning to the door, it became obvious who was the author of this defense plan. He tried to ensure her safety despite his own injuries, which was a testament to his bravery and self-sacrifice. This jacket belonged to Ed Lostaylor, who appears to have entered the fray, risking his own life to protect Yelka. The story of the jacket and the blood on it spoke of unspeakable bravery and willingness to sacrifice to keep loved ones safe. And here he is, Ed Lostaylor, who despite everything saved the girl, became the real hero of the story. Oh, I was so close, he thought, recalling the moments that almost ended in tragedy. 3 hours ago, when the books fell off the shelves as if in a prophecy, creating chaos and raising clouds of dust. Dust was flying everywhere, creating the effect of a fog that enveloped the room in an invisible veil. It's good that I always trained, he thought, remembering how he easily lifted the heavy cabinets, which now saved Yelka. The plot was moving faster than he expected, and judging by the summoning A runes, the real showdown with Glaskin was about to begin. I'm sure Taylor can handle it, and I don't even need to look in the direction where the main action is unfolding, he reasoned, realizing his role in this story. Because of this, it was important not to allow any changes in the course of events so as not to upset the delicate balance of power. But even so, it's better not to sit idly by, he decided, realizing that he needed to close the door so that enemies wouldn't get in and find a way to protect his shelter. Now I will eat dried meat and search for information all night, he thought intently, preparing for the next challenges that awaited him in this difficult struggle for survival and protection of loved ones. But stop, wait a minute. The strength of the connection with the spirit and the Janicus, these two characteristics can be improved through making contracts with spirits, the hero suddenly realized. The ability to increase spiritual characteristics for those who could not even see spirits opened the way to incredible possibilities. However, Yannicka had the ability to kill materialized spirits, which put her in a special position. How devilishly interesting the coincidence of circumstances is, thought the hero, assessing the situation. Thanks for this food for thought, he said, grateful for the new information. Their speeds were simply incredible, with fire magic reaching level 12 while spirit magic was at level 7, both showing impressive results. Ignition at 12th level and spirit magic at 7th. I was so close. If I reached the 15th level of spirit connection and spirit understanding combined, would I be able to make contracts with them as well? He pondered. Well, I'm trying my best anyway. Just a little more and maybe I'll achieve my goal. Yes, I can. He believed in his abilities. What am I doing here? Thought the hero, noticing how he attracted attention, unable to be ignored, resting all bruised. There is no reason to lie, he decided, realizing that openness could open up new possibilities and understanding for him in this difficult situation. To say that I trained, but only the most naive man in the world, the one whose heart is open to fairy tales and incredible stories, would believe that. He said the following, it is said, I realized who you are, what you have always been, the person who walks beside you, the invisible pillar in the dark. I am your great debtor, were the words that echoed in the silence, like a promise that would survive the ages. When the time comes, I will repay the debt at any cost. VDJ, a promise that became a beacon in a sea of VDJ-G uncertainty. Exactly. Elka is his beloved, but she was not important for the plot. Because of that she did not appear in it, so I forgot her, like you forget a star that has gone out a long time ago. However, this couple is not a friend of Taylor's, whom he trusted from the very beginning of the story. It is somehow as important as the key that opens the door to the solution. Because of this, I decided to say to him, "Looks like you left the student center and ran here." Words that bridged the gap between the past and the future. Once you've made sure that everything is fine with Elka, then go and do what you have to. Come back, was an instruction that had the power of a spell, an order of fate. You don't have to be here. Help Taylor. If you do what he says, everything will be over. He's on the verge of failure. The warning sounded like a prophecy. Jix said, "I don't understand why you think so highly of him and never even mentioned him in conversation before." A doubt that revealed the depth of their friendship and untold stories. It is not a matter of good opinion, but of compatibility. High-ranking fire spirit Tarkin's armor can only be penetrated by his own element, a technique he learned in the first act of Scene 9, and it will prove to be key to overcoming this episode. If I make Taylor use it, he can win. You have very little time, Jix, so hurry up and I'll rest here for now. The words echoed like a sentence, measuring the time that remained. I even gave him instructions, so everything should go according to the plot, like notes in a great symphony of fate. "Stop, stop, 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 stop a minute," was the cry that stopped time, like a magical pause in an orchestra before the climax. When he asked why I thought so highly of Taylor, one thing I didn't think about was why Jix hadn't become friends with Tyler yet, as if he'd forgotten about the subtle threads of friendship that weave together imperceptibly. Act 1, Scene 9, certification at the end of the semester. In the duel, Taylor was injured, but he learned the cut of the element, which he used to get closer to Jix through magic. Jix appreciated his persistence, and eventually the two became friends, although the last scene of the first act took place a month earlier than in the original plot. Episode 1, the last chapter of the confrontation with Glasscan, and the 9th scene of the first act has not yet taken place. Tangled threads of time that require resolution. As a result, Jix did not befriend him, and Taylor did not master the element, and now no one in the attack squad can deal damage to such a powerful demon Tarkan. To such a powerful demon Tarkan, as in the face of an inexorable night, it becomes clear that power is not only a sword in the hands, but also knowledge embedded in the heart. I used to refuse to understand that the plot had already completely gone the wrong way, like a river that has changed its course, not subject to expectations. I used to refuse to realize that the plot had already completely lost its way, like a derailed train that had unexpectedly changed its route. The student center is the base of the attack squad, a place where hearts full of hope and determination gathered. Jix came apologizing for the delay, promising to make amends for his misdeed, words that echoed through the walls like an echo of vows. Fiona said she could forget about it. Even with him they still lost, her voice shaking like an autumn leaf resisting the wind. The first attempt at an attack fails like a house of cards collapsing at the slightest breath. If we try to get more reinforcements again, I'll join you as soon as the pain in my leg subsides. Why? No need, he can just rest here. The words were filled with concern and determination intertwined with pain. Fiona had a big heart, and it was difficult for her to see the suffering of each of the participants, as if each of their wounds left a scar on her soul. Fortunately, they managed to retreat, but Claire dropped out of the pack like a fading star in the firmament of their hopes. And also Clevius, the best student of the first year of the military faculty, stood as the embodiment of the future victory that was yet to come. Fiona understood that it was necessary to kill Tarkin with the forces of the people left behind, but they had no time for that, just as there was no time to think in the face of the inevitable. Judging by the draft stage, it will end very quickly. Fiona's gaze shifted to the side. She saw it as an echo of fate that held within it the promise of future change. It's the last thing I wanted to do, but there's no choice. I walked into the building and offered to sort it out, taking charge like a captain ready to lead his ship through a storm. From now on, I will have to intervene in the plot, like a river that suddenly changes its direction, unexpected for all who stand on its banks. The first phase has begun, the recruitment of the team for the raid. I told everyone to split into 2 teams. Fiona, with curiosity in her eyes, looked at me as if she sensed a great change was about to happen. A coward is always afraid to face a task, like a shadow afraid of sunlight. For Clevius, the first priority was to listen to him, or rather to me, as a student seeking knowledge in the words of his master. We must go through the fire spirit Tarkan, who was summoned by Yannicka, and cooperate with the spirit of darkness Bellosphere, who was under her command, a strategy that required bravery and determination. However, as you have already noticed, In the fight against Tarkan, due to his armor, it is impossible to damage him, but we do not necessarily engage in a direct confrontation with him. As soon as one team will distract him, the other will go to the training grounds and pacify Yannicka. You only have to go through Tarkan and you can go directly to Yannicka, VDJ, a plan that had a chance of success. The girl immediately asked me to wait. She said that we had never met anyone like Tarkan in combat training. We managed to survive thanks to only one piece of luck, words that reminded us of the unpredictability of the battle and the importance of every step in it. What if the decoy team starts chasing the subdue team and suddenly things go wrong and the decoy team gets wiped out? Eventually, both monsters will have to be dealt with. It's a very big risk, thought opening the abyss of the unknown before their decision. I told her that the risk can be weighed when there are options, and when they are not there, you have to do everything that remains. Our main goal is to defeat Yannicka because then Tarkan will lose his power, words that carried the weight of a sentence. The problem was whether anyone on the decoy team would want to do it, a question that hung in the air like an invisible weight. The girl immediately offered to choose from those who can't wait to kill themselves, an offer that sounded with a hint of dark irony. One hand rose from the team, a moment that held the breath of everyone present. The swordsman seemed the bravest, and he chose himself. Now it was in my interest to convince him and force him to be on the subjugation team, a task that required not only courage, but also intelligence. He gave 100 reasons why he could do it, said he ran fast and was very skilled, but I stopped him as best I could. A verbal duel where every argument was worth its weight in gold. We are looking for a victim. It is not necessary to divide equally. VDJ, the logic that dispelled the illusions of equality in the struggle for survival. And the three of us will distract Tarkan. And I squealed like a girl. Why me, VDJ, a moment that brought laughter in their darkest hour, giving them hope. The only way to win is by tying Tarkan's paws, a plan that sounded like the last hope, desperate, but the only way to victory. We have little time. We need to spend more time on action, not on talk. Is a call to action that sounds like thunder in the silence, an echo of the urgency of the moment. Fiona still did not understand my intentions, as if a secret locked in the heart is waiting to be revealed. We need to split into two teams, Taylor, Jix, Isla, and me, Fiona said, identifying the members of Yannicka's subduing team, words that painted a picture of future strategy. Clavius, Loratel, and Ed on the decoy team, an arrangement that reminded us of the importance of each role in this complex operation. One last thing, Fiona said briefly, because they were short on time, words that emphasized the pressure of time slipping through her fingers. At any cost, survival comes first, is a principle that becomes a guiding light in the darkness of uncertainty. The pavilion, Neil, the corridor, they stood before the monsters because they are on the front line, a moment that draws the line between despair and hope. The question immediately came to me, how am I going to bide my time against such a huge lizard? VDJ, a doubt that causes a storm in the heart. You just have to do what I say, then we will definitely win, is an order that does not tolerate objections. Faith in the plan as a shield against despair. Very timid and insecure about his abilities, a description that reminds of internal struggles that are often invisible, but no less important. However, he is considered the best student not only because of his academic achievements, but also because of his unwavering determination that he shows in the military department despite all the challenges. He looked at me with such confidence that a whole sea of VDJ peace could appear in my eyes, and this feeling of confidence inspired me. I wondered if he really had a clear plan of action, because his calmness and confidence made me wonder if they were just a mask. The monster revealed its giant paw, which was huge, like an ancient symbol of strength and fear larger than my head. The key to our goal is hidden behind this door, and all we need is to skillfully distract the guard cockroach in order to slip past unnoticed. The determination of the princess struck me to the core. It was her confidence and faith in me that prompted me to come here and help her. However, the realization that I was not alone in this danger gave me strength and faith in the success of our daring mission. I will manage to develop my courage, said the cowardly fellow, finding courage in himself, and ran to distract the monster, showing an example of an incredible change. The monster's breath filled the air with a magical and powerful aura that caused a feeling of both admiration and fear. Confused and panicked, Clevius found himself in a situation where he didn't know where to run or where to seek shelter to avoid the inevitable encounter with the monster. 3 potential shelter plans flashed through his eyes and mind, promising a chance for survival, each requiring speed, wits, and luck. But in moments of panic, when adrenaline fills the blood and the heart almost jumps out of the chest, choosing the right path becomes an almost impossible task. Especially when behind you hear faintly muffled steps of a giant monster, whose shadows frighten even the most daring. You believed me, but why? What the hell did you risk? With disbelief in his voice, he could not understand why his friends decided to rely on such a risky plan. The girl, standing alone, went over the reasons for her lonely rebellion in her head, feeling bitter disappointment and hatred for the whole world around her, which seemed to have betrayed her. A whole fan of various pictures and memories opened in her head, which led away from this place to calmer and happier times. I sent her there because I was sure we could manage without her. She shouldn't have exposed herself to such a risk. He explained his decision with a sense of responsibility. During our conversation, she lightly remarked, "Are you going to make a joke? Not bad, but be prepared for moral criticism." My response was, "First of all, it's not a sacrifice. It's a choice. Despite his appearance, he is the best student, possessing remarkable resilience and the ability to overcome any challenge. And you, my friend, will get an even more important mission." Addressing Rolatel, he emphasized the importance of the task, which required not only courage, but also wisdom. Outside of the training grounds, you will be the last obstacle in the way of the enemy, guarding the passage for the group. Your task is to deliver a critical blow to the Starkin, using the entire arsenal of your skills and knowledge. The girl gradually began to realize that her initial attitude towards me, based on hasty conclusions, may have been wrong. Thinking led her to the conclusion that it would be worth giving me a chance. I tried to lunch them by saying that all boys doubt themselves, but you control your emotions very well, he admitted admiringly, feeling proud of his ability to keep calm in a critical moment. Just blow up the passage. She succinctly indicated a direct and effective way to overcome the obstacle using her unique abilities. Her efforts were successful. The strong door was blown into small pieces in an instant, which flew in all directions, leaving behind only a cloud of dust and stones. All that remained were dust and pebbles that quietly settled on the ground, as if they were witnesses of the incredible power that had just been revealed. A huge hole in the wall opened before her, like an entrance to a new, unknown world that was waiting for their exploration. Fiona and the entire team watched her in amazement, unable to understand how she was able to accomplish such an incredible transformation of space. Turning back to the team, she softly said, "Come," inviting them to enter through the newly created passageway that opened up new possibilities. During the joint combat training, I used forbidden magic of the middle rank, which caused the ceiling of Dale's pavilion to explode unexpectedly, showing my defiance and courage to experiment. It was because of his determination and courage that Ed entrusted me with this important task, feeling in my ability to understand and carry out complex missions. "You are an amazing person, Ed. The passage is open." With gratitude and admiration, I expressed my admiration for his leadership qualities and ability to solve the most difficult problems. There was only one problem that stood between us and our ultimate goal. Cloyes, running away from the monster, screamed in despair, threatening Loratel and Ed with revenge, stressing that they would not be able to escape responsibility for their actions so easily. Even if our plan worked, and the team made it through without encountering the cockroach, I would still have to face him face to face as he continued to pose a threat. Having chosen the path of confronting the Tarkan, we could no longer retreat and were forced to finish the matter. I was convinced that I would be able to stop the monster, using all my experience and knowledge to find its weak points. But our blows proved powerless against his solid armor, forcing us to seek alternative methods of attack. "We'll use it against his armor. Get ready and stock up on magic," I told my companion, planning to exploit the enemy's weak points to our advantage. In the course of events, it turned out that Loratil was right in her approach to solving the problem, emphasizing her intuition and strategic thinking. Without cutting the element, we can't penetrate the Tarkan's armor. Realizing the complexity of the task, we gathered together to combine our forces and find a solution. Our team pulled together with all their strength, preparing for the decisive blow against the monster, knowing that only by working together can we succeed. "We have to give a decent fight to this monster." Motivating each other, we prepared for the last battle, gathering our will into a fist. Opening the door at full speed, we decided to act decisively and without hesitation, using the element of surprise to our advantage. We need more firepower. I realized that to break through the Tarkan's defenses, we would need something much more powerful than normal attacks. Even in such moments, there is room for levity. She slept peacefully, sweet bubbles of saliva escaping from her mouth, reminding us of the peaceful life beyond this battle. The final battle turned out to be extremely difficult, a test that demanded from us not only strength, but also the ability to fulfill all the additional conditions for victory. But we have unlimited time. With the realization that we are in no hurry, we decided to act carefully, planning every step. How can you sleep in such a situation? Surprise and delight at the fact that someone was able to find calm in the heart of the storm. Lucy had to find a place to sleep in the most unexpected places, as her usual bed was destroyed. She took refuge on the roof, sleeping in the open, which allowed her to be absent from the plot but remain an important part of the story. Yannicka was not in the best shape, which caused irritation in Belle May, who expected more from her. Because of this, Lucy used all her magic to escape and fell into a deep sleep, temporarily exiting the plot to avoid a confrontation with a much stronger character. She always had a weakness for dried meat, which for her was something like a delicacy. When pieces of dried meat appeared in front of her, her eyes lit up with joy and appetite, as if it was the most desired dish. She immediately grabbed the meat, eating with gusto and exclaiming that she needed more, despite the fact that she didn't have any at the moment. Our goal is a huge lizard, a dangerous opponent that requires all of our courage and intelligence. I will be able to cover this distance. Don't worry, I did it often in the army. I confidently prepared for action, knowing that I had the necessary experience. Guys, duck down! I shouted, releasing Lucy directly at the lizard, using her as an unexpected element of surprise in the battle. The battle with the lizard continued to become more and more intense. Every moment could bring unpredictable consequences. She rushed towards the lizard with a piece of dried meat in her teeth, and I, for my part, emphasized my cruelty, ready for any challenges. She was a very cruel thief, but her courage and determination only brought her closer to the panther. Every moment became decisive in this confrontation. Approaching even closer to the enemy, her energy began to overflow with magic, gaining new unseen powers. Elementrokinesis of a high level, a divine game that enveloped everything around, turning the battle into a true spectacle of extraordinary magical power. Everything around, even us, barely had time to escape from the powerful explosion of her magic that covered the battlefield. I barely held on to the handrail, fighting the magnetic force of her magic trying to pull me off the ground. In this sense, this moment became the key in our struggle, the decisive point of the entire confrontation. A high-ranking fire spirit cockroach with impenetrable armor that we couldn't defeat even with all our strength was powerless to Lucy's magic, which was able to destroy it. Now that we were able to break through his defenses, we had the opportunity to strike the final decisive blow. Then I must take mine. The last blow will be mine. Realizing the importance of this moment, I prepared to deliver the final blow. I am very proud of you, my little beloved daughter. With tenderness and pride, I looked at Lucy, who earned recognition and love by her actions. I'm proud to be friends with you, was how I expressed my respect and gratitude for the unwavering support and friendship we shared. You, Nadia, as a sophomore, showed yourself better than everyone else in joint training battles, possessing your abilities at a high level. Such recognition was expressed as a sign of respect for her skill. Of course I can entrust it to you. Without you, my second year here would have been terrible. Words of gratitude and recognition of the importance of her presence and influence on life. All these words were addressed to one girl, who earned such high praise for her actions and deeds. We are very lucky to have you with us, Yannicka. A confession of gratitude for her companionship and contribution to the common cause. The great explosion, which announced itself with a loud rumble, scattered energy in all directions, becoming the culmination of their efforts. It can't be that the whole group gathered here in one place. Amazement at the fact that they were all able to unite for a common goal. Welcome, Yannicka said, thinking about how to always greet them with a smile despite all the trials. Behind her grew a gigantic monster, a reminder of the inevitable challenges and struggles yet to come. She was chained, her mind no longer her own. It was under the monster's complete control, emphasizing the gravity of their situation. And its scale was amazing. It was so big that its silhouette stretched all the way to the horizon, overshadowing the sun. He had 4 mighty wings that unfolded with a clap of thunder, and his legs, strong and twisted like those of an ancient devil, were covered with scales that shimmered with all the shades of night. I was sure that everything would work out for them. This faith radiated from me like a light, adding strength and inspiring everyone around to feats that seemed impossible. I ran without putting any effort, my heart pounding in my chest, but the will to win drove me forward through the darkness to the light that promised salvation. Also provides backing vocals just in time. It was like a gentle breath of wind, energizing and uplifting, reminding us that beauty and harmony exist even in the chaos of battle. You can just finish him off. That's what we planned, but I used all my magic to throw 2 punishing blows at him. He's still standing, a persistent scumbag. She sighed, looking at the enemy, who, despite everything, continued to resist. We need to cut his throat. Your magic isn't up to it, I told her, but I decided to take it upon myself, knowing that my skills and experience would give us an advantage. Clevius, as usual, sat, afraid of what was happening around him. His eyes reflected all the terror and uncertainty that gripped his soul, but deep in his heart he dreamed of courage. I was ready to take all the responsibility and put an end to this, just to paralyze the monster using all my cunning and knowledge. "I will take responsibility. I trust you with my life," I said, looking her straight in the eyes, my determination and commitment leaving no room for doubt. It was strange for her because I was saying everything so simply, but really, it wasn't a game. The value of a human life is not something insignificant, and I wanted her to fully understand that. It was a real investment, not just in money or resources, but in the future that we planned to build together, cherishing hope and dreams as the most valuable treasure. She knew how to invest like no one else. It was her forte. Her ability to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles has always amazed me and inspired me to achieve new things. I confessed to her that I liked her more than a princess who behaved like a ruler because she had the blood of an emperor in her. Her authenticity and liveliness made her endlessly attractive to me. "Since you trusted me with your life, I will also risk it for you," said the girl, her eyes burning with courage and determination, which was the true embodiment of trust and support. "It's time to start," she said with firmness in her voice, ready for action, for new challenges that awaited us ahead in the darkness of the unknown. Clavius Vijay lay there and cried. Despair overcame him, but at the same time there was something funny and so human in this helplessness that it could not but arouse sympathy. He and I both found ourselves in a hopeless situation. Both were looking for a way out, but despite everything, we kept hope and faith in each other. But I understand Clavius, who is scared to death. His fear was justified, but at the same time there was strength in him, the strength to admit his fears and face them. I threw myself at the monster, knowing the risks, but feeling an overwhelming need to act, to protect what I held dear, even if it meant facing my fears. It was still early. It was necessary to get closer, using the moment of surprise. Every step I took was measured and careful, and my heart beat in unison with the quiet whisper of the night, which promised either victory or defeat. And then I saw something unexpected. In the middle of the delirious battle, in the midst of the usual destruction and chaos, a vision appeared that stopped my breath for a moment and derailed my usual thoughts. "What the hell is this? That hand is so big it could hold 10 Clavius," I exclaimed, staring in amazement at this supernatural apparition that emerged from the darkness, as if the very shadows nurtured its power. "It's Glaskin's hand, isn't it? It means Taylor's group has entered the final phase. Everything is going according to plan," she whispered, her voice full of mixed emotions, triumph and anxiety at the same time. Unlucky at the moment it can distract her. My thought shot through my mind like a meteor, looking for ways to use this situation to our advantage, knowing that any moment could decide everything. However, it is necessary to do what I have already planned. My determination is iron concrete. No circumstances would make me deviate from the goal that was already clearly emerging in my mind. Even during a period of serious upheaval, Laurentiel did not make a single mistake. Her concentration and skill were impeccable, her every movement measured and precise, as if she were dancing in the whirlwind of battle. She was very skilled in her craft and mastered magic, her fingers delicately entwined in the air, drawing symbols of ancient power, preparing to release it fully. She struck her blow at the monster, causing an explosion of light and energy that lit up the sky like lightning, ripping the darkness in half, promising to turn the tide of the battle. All this also concerns me. I felt a deep connection with this battle, with every moment of it, knowing that my fate was inextricably intertwined with the fates of those who were fighting next to me. Because of this, I have used this spell hundreds of thousands of times. Each repetition, each ritual added strength and experience to me, making me stronger and ready for the decisive confrontation that was about to take place. The spell called Windblade. I mastered it perfectly. Every gesture, every word in my speech was honed to perfection, making this power a part of me. Every time I used it, I practiced making it better and better. My dedication to this art has turned into a limitless skill that has only sharpened my abilities every day. I had to slip under the monster, using every opportunity to maneuver. My agility and cunning became my best allies in this dangerous game with fate. We have won the high-level fire spirit, Tarkin. Spiritual magic and connection with spirit have been enhanced, opening new horizons of possibilities in our magical practice. Spirit magic, spirit understanding enhanced, spirit connection enhanced, spirit understanding enhanced, spirit magic, spirit connection enhanced. Spirit contract slot unlocked. We can now make a spirit contract, expanding our magical abilities. Watching Taylor, I couldn't help but admire his courage and skill. He was like a beacon of hope in this chaos that surrounded us. "Oh, Taylor, he's a real hero," was heard repeatedly among our ranks. His actions spoke for themselves, and his name became a symbol of steadfast courage. Pushing off the roof, he flew straight to his sword hand, his movement swift and sure, as if he himself had become part of the wind. Inside the hand, he delivered more than 100 blows, causing critical damage to the hand. His sword flashed through the darkness, each strike precise and deadly. There was a loud explosion. The stones that made up 80% of the hand flew in different directions. It was like a sign that shadows that seemed invincible could be torn apart when true strength and courage met their way. Taylor is actually the main character. His story, trials, and triumphs form the basis of this epic tale, where every step he takes echoes in the hearts of those who watch him. The events in the fight was very intense, but it seems that everything is over. The dust settles, and with it the tension, leaving behind only memories of the battle that changed everything. It was getting cooler outside. It was morning. Dawn washed away the last shadows of the night, ushering in a new day full of hope and new possibilities. I've met many people in my life who said they were really risking their lives, but most of them turned out to be cowards. This ordeal opened my eyes to the fact that true courage is not just words. "We nursed a deadly crisis together, and you are calm," she told me. Her words resonated with me, reminding me of the steadfastness and fortitude we shared. She asked me to officially introduce myself again. "I am Loratel Ketchuln," she said with dignity, and at that moment I realized that I was standing before a person of great inner strength. She shook my hand, greeting me. Her handshake was firm and sure, a symbol of respect and mutual understanding between us. This time she won and gave me 3 coins. This gesture had a deeper meaning, symbolizing our shared victory and shared hopes. She caught me off guard. "Now I owe you, and I will not turn away from your words," I had to admit, feeling the depth of the obligation that arose between us. "We will definitely see her again," she said while saying goodbye. The words rang out like a promise that no matter what lay ahead, our paths would cross again in the future. It is strange that she is going to continue in the same vein, but I want nothing to do with her. This decision was difficult, but necessary in order to preserve my inner peace and principles. Turning around, she left. Her figure slowly dissolved in the mist of morning freshness, leaving behind only the echoes of unspoken words. From the looks of it, his swordsman form manifested itself in the game. It was also cool-looking. His skill and style were the epitome of martial grace and strength. Despite all this, a debt is a debt. These words resonated with me, reminding me of the importance of honor and duty to those who rely on us. He bowed low before me and thanked me. This gesture of respect and gratitude deeply impressed me, emphasizing the importance of our joint efforts. Always running and squealing, he also said that you shouldn't show respect to a person like me. VDJ, remembering his words, I couldn't help but smile, remembering our adventures. Everyone gathered to face Clevius. This moment united us, showing that together we can overcome any obstacles. Fiona also thanked me and said she could recommend me to the student council. Her support was invaluable, opening up new perspectives for the future. Lucy contributed the most, and Taylor killed Bellosphere and Glaskin. Because of this, I ask you to pay attention to them. Their achievements deserve recognition and respect. God, you refuse to admit it. It's no secret that Lucy and Taylor excelled. We're already talking about what happened outside of their power. Are you upset? These words prompted me to think about the true values VDJ and meaning of heroism. He is already older than you, Elvira. He showed respect. This gesture emphasized the maturity and wisdom that comes with experience, reminding us of the importance of respecting the elders and the wise. I kept my distance from the main characters so as not to affect the course of events, but looking at them made me feel warm. This observation from afar allowed me to see the bigger picture and feel the depth of their experiences and growth. I have been watching them for so long and constantly solving their problems. My intervention, often imperceptible to them, became key at many points in their lives, guiding them down paths that led to maturity and self-discovery. Taylor was getting stronger with each practice, and Ayla was not far behind. Their perseverance and dedication to training became an example for all who strive for improvement. Fiona accepted her destiny to become a ruler and gradually grew up. Her transformation from a timid girl to a strong leader was inspiring, highlighting her willpower and purpose. Jix found his place in civilization. His journey from an outsider to an important part of the community showed that everyone can find their place, even in the most unexpected circumstances. Clevius gained confidence, and Elvira realized that life is not all jokes and fun. Their personal development reflected their willingness to grow and learn from their own mistakes. Laura Tell, who has been bathed in money all her life, thought about her principles. This inner insight indicated her willingness to look beyond the material, appreciating the true values VDJ-VG of life. Each of them is the main character, playing his role. Their individual stories intertwine to create a multifaceted narrative where each has its own place and meaning. At the end, a trophy called success awaits them. This prospect is not just a reward for their efforts, but a symbol that endurance, courage, and friendship can overcome any challenge. Knowing this, I turned away from them. This act was not an escape, but rather an acknowledgement that my role here was done, and it was time for them to go their separate ways without my supervision. The place you couldn't get to followed the game plot. It was a forbidden zone, surrounded by mystery and enigmas that drew you in, causing an irresistible desire to reveal them. The scene after the end of the story. The silence and stillness that overtook the scene was evidence of the end of one chapter and a hint of the beginning of another, perhaps yet to be written. The spare podium, where Lucy usually napped during joint training. It was her favorite place to relax, where she could find peace in the midst of the hustle and bustle. No matter how much I think about it, something doesn't seem right. I had to go through here. It is the feeling that my mission is not yet complete, that there is something else I must do. In order to highlight the success of the main characters, I somehow have to stay behind the scenes. My job is to support without interfering, allowing them to shine brighter. Opening the chest, I saw her here. The sun was falling on her delicate body and on her beautiful flowing hair. The moment was filled with beauty and peace emanating from her. She lay and laughed back at me. The order is up to her. The words with gratitude and lightness that she radiated immediately came to my mind. The first question I asked was, why did Yannicka get mad? Curiosity about her story and behavior led me to search for answers. But she had no idea. Her serenity and obscurity only added to her mystery, making her story even more intriguing. One day, walking through the corridors, I happened to see her room, the door of which was ajar, as if calling me inside. Every object in that house was not just a thing, but a beautiful symbol of the attention, love, devotion, and gratitude shown to her, which came to life in every corner. But on the large table that served her as both an altar and a workplace, there was no room left even to open the book, which was wedged between the mountains of papers and gifts. The stickers attached above the table, like marble slabs, pressed on her with the weight of demands and unresolved tasks. The solution was very simple, but not obvious. All she had to do was remove the stickers and rearrange the mountain of gifts, which was growing every day, as a symbol of her inability to give up excess and find harmony. She stopped at one wish, to read all the wishes of goodness and sincerity that she received from the world, feeling every word to the core of her soul. No need to explain how reckless that was. Bellosphere, the embodiment of her dark fears, used this darkness in her soul, and Yannicka lost her mind with an irresistible desire to understand everyone and everything. However, why did everything happen a month earlier? It seemed that the joint combat training, in which Taylor was the original hero of this episode, opened the door to unexpected events. For once, she could knock him out with a single punch, and all the students instantly became Yannicka fans, discussing this miracle with undisguised admiration. The reason for Taylor's defeat was not only the contract with Lucy, but also their secret cooperation, due to Lucy's frequent visits to the northern part of the forest, where there was an ideal sleeping place created by an unknown master. He became a character who was supposed to appear at the beginning of the first act, but fate decided otherwise, interfering in the script in an unexpected way. I think I understand why Lucy is here. It's really very comfortable to sleep here. I didn't think you'd find me so easily, she whispered, not hiding her surprise against the background of the general chaos. I caused damage of such an incredible scale in front of everyone, and now, watching from the side, it seemed to me that they would start looking for me with questions. Where is Yannicka? She added bitterly. Of course, that's why you hid, I won't ask, I told her, accepting her choice without further questions. I didn't expect that you would find me so quickly. I wanted to stay here longer, she admitted, revealing her feelings. I looked at her with admiration when I once had to save her according to the judge, despite the she-wolf who wanted to prevent Yannicka from ending up in such a situation. I thought about the meeting of fate. Well, it's impossible because I alone know that she must have thought that everyone was putting pressure on Yannicka, and therefore only a man who keeps a distance from her can become her support. I mentally analyzed the situation. In the end, Yannicka failed in her attempt to enter into a contract with a high-ranking spirit, but rushed the process and fell victim to a dark spirit that destroyed the faculty building. She studied and practiced spells every night, always smiling at her family, friends, teachers, who sincerely supported her, trying to keep positive in everything. She was also always smiling, but despite living up to the expectations of others, she must have had a hard time alone, as her inner struggle and loneliness weighed down on her like an invisible burden. Until now, she remained beautiful, strangely enough. The failure did not make her worse, but on the contrary, revealed the depth of her strength and endurance. "I don't know how much my words will help her, but I'll try," I said, preparing to express my support and faith in her strength. "You did a great job, Yannicka." I expressed to her my enthusiasm and recognition of her efforts, despite all the trials. The main characters entered the stage, and applause broke out in the hall, marking the climax of their story. Backstage remained dark and quiet, creating a contrast between the lights of the ramp and the reality hidden from the audience. The thief of the first act left, giving way to the main character, symbolizing the passing of the baton and the change of roles. I have watched the end of the first act countless times, but only this time I can actually see them, realizing the depth of the events. Before I could not see the spirits, but now, as the scene of life unfolded before me, they became visible, filling the space with their presence. But now they are all around me, fascinating with their beauty and elusiveness, opening to me another dimension of existence. I feel completely immersed in the experience, living with the characters in their trials, joys, and learnings, becoming a part of their world. But tears flow down the girl's cheeks, each of which seems to reflect her deep pain and remorse. Spirit Magic, Spirit Connection Level 10. Spirit Magic, Spirit Understanding Level 10 shows her incredible ability to interact deeply with the unseen world. The low-ranking Fire Spirit Elgo and the low-ranking Wind Spirit Driz took an interest in me, sensing something unusual in my energy. The high-ranking Wind Spirit Marilda takes an extreme interest in me, marking the beginning of an unusual union. It has been 10 days since the end of the trial of the disciplinary committee, days filled with anxiety and hope for a fair decision. Yannicka realized her mistakes and stated that she would willingly accept the punishment, demonstrating her willingness to take responsibility for her actions. However, during the first session, all of Yannicka's professors and friends gave her great support, showing the power of true friendship and community. At the second meeting, Fiona stated that she would not press charges against her for an attempt on a member of the ruling family, revealing the truth about Bellasphere's influence on Yannicka. Laura Teal took up the question of compensation for the damage caused, and the panel of LT fully compensated the means of restoration without demanding anything in return. The agreement was supplemented by conditions on the halving of possible fees and the need to provide educational supplies for the academy, showing readiness for compromises and mutual understanding. As a result of all these events, it was decided to withdraw all the awards and prizes awarded annually to the best students, as well as to cancel all awards and orders of glory. Banned from Ophelis Pavilion next semester, 10 days of probation as a 20-day suspension, motion to dismiss denied. It felt as if they had become the protagonists of a touching coming-of-age drama, which only strengthened their spirit and togetherness. Yannicka's shoulders were slumped more than usual, which was a sign of her inner struggle and fatigue. In such a situation, it became clear to everyone that it was time to make our exit, get together, and show the power of friendship and support. The table was full of food, the coffee was steaming, and the desserts were extremely sweet, creating an atmosphere of comfort and warmth. There was no need to disturb her by asking how she was feeling. It was necessary to talk only about ordinary, everyday matters. They agreed, trying to create a calm space for Yannicka. "You don't need to play along with her," the friends decided, trying to show their support through sincerity and openness. "Come on, Yannicka." Everyone started talking, trying to distract her from unpleasant thoughts and focus on the positive. Yannicka was asked, "What do you think? Are infatuation and love different things or not?" This question prompted a deep and philosophical discussion, opening a new way for understanding and self-discovery. It surprised her, because unexpectedly everyone immediately started talking about such an intimate topic, which caused her confusion. She had a dream that was very interesting and different from ordinary dreams, filled with bright colors and emotions. There were a lot of flowers in the dream, which created an impression of incredible beauty and harmony, as if she was in a magical garden. She was like a little girl, holding a wreath of flowers in her palms, sitting on the green, soft grass that barely swayed in the light breeze. And one man approached her from the side, who stood out with his figure and calm expression, as if he was a part of this magical world. Sitting on his horse, he addressed her, calling out her name, which sounded like music in the dream, tenderly and warmly. She made this wreath in a dream, especially for Ed, and gently put it on his head, turning the moment into something magical and memorable. They held hands for a very long time, running through the field of flowers, laughing and enjoying every moment together, as if time had stopped for them. This dream never stops dreaming, leaving behind a feeling of warmth and light that warms her heart. The friend asked what other dreams she had, eager to learn more about the mysterious world of her dreams and to share her own experiences. She told how one day, sitting in her room and having lost the focus of her vision, her imagination suddenly brought his face before her as a sign of an unforgettable presence in her life. It was necessary to carefully interpret everything so as not to hurt her sensitive heart because of ordinary at first glance things. Otherwise, all the students will know about their legendary love story, which already had a chance to become a real urban legend. Yannicka, you should take it easy. She tried to find the strength to accept the situation and the emotions it causes. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin, which are often intertwined in our hearts, creating a complex knot of feelings. She could be frank with her emotions only in the circle of her closest friends, where she found understanding and support. Next time, be more careful when touching on sensitive topics, her friend warned, reminding her of the need for tact in conversations about personal experiences. Immediately after the conversation, she understood everything and thanked the young man for his valuable advice, feeling the need to return to the office to report on the temporary suspension. They waved goodbye to each other, confirming mutual understanding and support in this situation. And her friend realized that Yannicka had coped with this test and told her everything correctly, sharing her experience and impressions. I was still in tuition debt, but thanks to Fiona's petition, I was exempted from next semester's fees in an unexpected show of support. With the gold I had, I bought the necessary tools, which became the first step towards realizing my dream of owning my own home in the forest. I used to avoid her, but now after the end of the first act, where she was the main character, I felt the need to build a relationship. It would be good to take the first steps and say hello to her, showing readiness for dialogue and mutual understanding. But when I approached and said hello, she got scared and retreated behind a tree, whose reaction was a surprise to me. I advised her to be honest with her feelings, hoping for openness and sincerity in our communication. But she, clutching her head, shouted that she had business in the office and promised to see us later, quickly leaving the meeting place. The level of difficulty of this task was too high for Yannicka, emphasizing the internal conflict and self-doubt. Edloistelor had found the ability to make even the strong Yannicka feel vulnerable, which was in some ways an impressive ability. You should not impose yourself, because I myself have enough things to deal with, emphasizing the importance of personal space and independence. Finally, it was time to build the hut. Since ancient times, when man first raised his eyes to the stars, it seemed that his destiny was to compete with nature. And so, after much thought and planning, I decided to make my dream come true. Day 1. The dawn opened a new day, full of promises and opportunities, and I, gathering all my determination, set out for the place where my new home was to be. For construction, I chose a remote and inconspicuous area in the shade and peacefully began work. Having chosen a place where the trees rustled, as if sharing ancient secrets, I enthusiastically plunged into the process of creating my shelter. Day 3. Time imperceptibly slipped forward, and every new morning I was greeted by the changes that I made to the landscape of this corner of nature. I started to collect the tree thanks to a cute test, and using the wind blade, this stage went smoothly. The challenges posed by nature only sharpened my intelligence and skill, and the wind blade, like an extension of my will, easily broke through obstacles. Day 6. I stopped collecting the tree as the SMS assessment results came in, quite high in theory, and even higher in practice than last year's semester. Having received confirmation of my knowledge and skills, I returned to my goal with new inspiration, realizing that every step forward makes me stronger. Surprisingly, Nika continues to avoid me. Among the endless spaces and silence, only thoughts about Nika brought disorder, reminding of the world beyond my temporary separation. Her friends, Clara and Anise, look at me as if they want to say that I shouldn't have caught her eye, even though I actually didn't plan to. It is interesting that the opinions of others, even if not expressed out loud, can become for us a mirror in which we see ourselves from another side. Day 18. Tree harvesting almost done, wondering if anyone has developed Windblade to the same level as me. In my mind, I turned to the masters unknown to me, whose palms, perhaps, once just as confidently held the tools that changed the world around. 1:20, the holidays started. Now you can devote all your time to construction. With a feeling of boundless freedom, I looked at the dawn of a new day, ready to immerse myself completely in the creation of my utopia. When I went to check the trap, I found only Lucy sleeping peacefully in it. Probably we should stop using dried meat as bait. The dawn covered the forest with a gentle mist, and in the silence, broken only by my steps, lay an unexpected find that reminded me of the unpredictability of nature and the need to be resourceful in survival. 127. The senior maid, Belle Maya, brought some greens and mushrooms and asked how I was doing with Yannicka. In the comfort of the kitchen, where every object had its own story, Belle, with her characteristic warmth, tried to find out whether I needed support in solving personal matters. In response to my words that she must hate me, Belle shook her head. Belle, with wisdom acquired over the years, seemed to be trying to say without words that sometimes our beliefs about others can only be a reflection of our own doubts. Day 30. One support in the center could not support the walls. I realized that it was not enough just to make and fit the joints to make the structure strong enough. The mood was bad. Under the burden of failure and disappointment, I once again faced challenges that required not only physical strength, but also endurance of the spirit. In the bakery, I ran into Yannicka again. She ran away as soon as our eyes met. A chance meeting in a place where the smell of fresh bread mingled with the clamor of voices suddenly turned into a silent confrontation of unspoken words and emotions. Her friends were, as always, generally speaking, nothing new. Circumstances forced me again and again to face the fact that sometimes the people around us play the roles predicted by fate itself, unchanging and predictable. Day 37. Jix came to my rescue. Everything became the same as in the original. As in a fairy tale where each character has his own role and mission, Jix became an indispensable assistant, restoring my faith in success and the power of friendship. Me and Jix were on the subject ourselves and discussed Taylor. He's a pretty nice guy. Under the starry sky, sharing stories and memories, we found a common language, forgetting all difficulties and opening new faces of acquaintances. The days flew by very quickly. Time, imperceptible and eternal, carries us through trials and joys, leaving only memories of the moments that shape our lives. The 45th day has already begun. Each new day is another page in the book of my life, which is slowly but surely filled with stories about achievements, failures, and endless faith in the future. I entered the room. Walking through the void that once promised to become more than just space, I stopped, feeling the beginning of a new chapter in my life, where he found himself on a bare field, walls, and no furniture. Looking around the room, which looked more like a stage for future events than a cozy corner, I was once again reminded of the importance of patience and self-belief. This hut is made of only unhewn timbers. Standing among the testimony of my own work, I couldn't help but feel proud that I managed to create a shelter from nothing, using only natural materials. There is a roof over your head. If the closed door is a passage, then insects will not fly. Every element of my new home was thought out. Even if it seemed simple or obvious, it fulfilled its important function, providing comfort and protection. But it is better than the hut that was before. The new completed project is a wooden hut, the difficulty of creating 4 stars out of 5. Looking at my creation, I couldn't help but compare it with my previous experience, realizing that each attempt brought me closer to mastery. Because there is skill, it has grown. Now I have a home. The awareness that every blow of the hammer, every precise calculation turned into something more than just a shelter, gave an unexpected sense of achievement. Resting in her house, she stood behind a tree. Caught up in a moment of peace, I noticed a silhouette moving between the trees, like a shadow that was there and not there at the same time. It was Elias. She was watching me as if she wanted to approach me. Her presence introduced a new mystery into my life, as if opening the door to a world I didn't know about yet. I wonder what was on her mind. There was silence between us, full of unspoken words and emotions that were waiting for their time to spill out in a river of trust and understanding. Floor, walls, and that's it. It would be nice to put up a fence, a firewood shed, and a couple of other things. Dreaming of a future where every corner of this earth will reflect my vision and efforts, I imagined how step by step my home would be filled with life and meaning. There was a loud knock on the roof. An unexpected sound broke the silence, like a reminder that surprises can happen even in a remote hut. "This is not a sleeping tower for you, damn it," I said. Between seriousness and joking, I responded to the invisible intervention, trying to restore the calm I had only just settled. "Hello, Ed," he said on a whim from behind the bushes. The sounds around came to life, offering a new clue in this little adventure in the middle of an ordinary day. "Oh, hello, Yannicka," I greeted her. She dared to come. It was strange. Her unexpected appearance made changes in the usual rhythm of life, paving the way for new stories. "How did you end up here?" I immediately asked her. Curiosity mixed with surprise pushed me to learn more about the reasons for her arrival. The last time I was in the forest, I looked into the camp of the young Master Ed and saw something amazing. Her words revealed immersion in a world where every detail could be the beginning of an adventure. I spoke to the maid then, and she told me. Revelations that come through the stories of others are often the keys to understanding greater mysteries. That you yourself told her that you were building your own hut, but it turned out to be more impressive and complex than expected. I was left under a pleasant impression, the maid told me. Her words were a recognition that efforts and dreams can have an incomparable impact on others. The maid admitted that she immediately wanted to look there. Just as a spark of curiosity can ignite into a flame of admiration, so a simple story turned into a journey to my cabin. Of course, I am an ordinary man. Anyone seeing such a feature would be interested in who built it and how it is arranged from the inside. My thoughts ran forward, realizing that everyone who steps on the threshold of my hut not only becomes a part of its history, but also joins my life, revealing new facets of joint existence. It's to be expected, of course. My answer sounded like an agreement with the unwritten rules of adventure, where every step leads to new discoveries. I was walking and met Marilda, and when I saw a hut, I decided to look in there. Zero, seeing it, was interested in who built it, how it was built, and when you built it. Her story, like a mosaic, consisted of memories and impressions mixed with curiosity about my person and my work. It's like the girl who just released the version of the maid looks like she couldn't tell Ed the truth. There was uncertainty in her voice, as if each word was a brave step on the way to the truth. It was immediately clear from her that she was very shy. Her figure radiated insecurity, which in the struggle with curiosity turned into vulnerable courage. When he is without clothes, you can see his muscles. The unexpected turn of the conversation, which opened a new side of her perception, made her smile from surprise. She personally does not chat with spirits, but she knows this information a little. Mysterious words that left more questions than answers, trying to unravel the secrets of her experience. "I almost didn't know where you live," said the girl. Her confession emphasized the chance of their meeting, as well as the hidden hope for something more than just acquaintance. I immediately suggested that she come in and check it out. My invitation, spoken with ease, opened the door for her not only to my hut, but also to my world. The house is quite simple, made of wood, a description that put in these simple words the deep meaning of my work and love for natural materials. You could immediately see and understand everything from her face. Her reaction, vivid and undisguised, spoke of sincere interest and impressions, which perhaps exceeded her expectations. With her eyes sparkling with delight, she exclaimed, "I want." Her astonishment, caused by the fact that I had done everything myself, knew no bounds, and her eyes widened in surprise and admiration. We lit the evening fire together, the flames dancing in the darkness, drawing shadows on our faces. This time she owed her friends more than usual, feeling the weight of this debt on her shoulders. The princess and Lord Elthar provided her with invaluable assistance this time. Some friends even offered to lend money so she could pay for her studies. "I want to ask you, how can I thank them?" she reasoned out loud, looking for advice. I answered her, "If you can't pay back now, then you shouldn't worry. Debts are not always something that should be paid back on principle." She had never thought about it, could not understand how deeply rooted were the hopes and expectations that her friends placed on her. Despite being helped to pay for her education, investing in her future, she decided to move from the modern Ophelis to the old Dex dormitory, seeing it as a step towards reducing her debt to her friends. She wanted to feel less of a debt burden, so she agreed to move to Dex, where one room was intended for 8 people at once, while in Ophelis, everyone had their own privacy. This choice was like being in a miniature prison with constant watchful eyes. In the Athos atmosphere, with its endless difficulties, she understood that this would not solve her main problems, but she also knew that she would never get out of the tight circle without outside help. My job is to offer her support just when she wants to be alone. I opened the door of my world for her, saying, "Let her look in at any time. I will never be against her visit, because her presence illuminates my life like a ray of light in the darkness." I offered it to her, standing on the threshold of new opportunities, hoping that she would find comfort in my offer. And she did not refuse. She said that it would be wonderful. Her words sounded like music, promising the beginning of something new and beautiful between us. She told me that if I was depressed or couldn't handle something on my own, she wanted me to share it with her, giving me hope for shared experiences. And then she promised that she would try her best to help me. Words that put a sense of security and confidence in my heart. It was a very pleasant and necessary conversation for me, which became a beacon of light in my often darkened world. I get depressed sometimes, but now, knowing she's there, I feel like I can find a way out of any darkness. The second semester will soon begin, which promises not only new knowledge, but also new challenges, filled with unpredictable drama and reincarnations. And with it, the second act of our unforgettable adventure, where each of us will play our role, carving out a destiny with a scroll of reality. A sealed sage grimoire, the great sage of Sylvania, made notes in this magical book, keeping secrets that could change the course of history. This little book will cause a storm that will challenge anyone who dares to face its secrets. This storm will engulf the entire academy, becoming a decisive moment in the life of every student, teacher, and even the academy itself. I thanked her, but told her that this would never happen to me, even though deep down I knew that anyone could face the unexpected. They have nothing to do with me, but it will be seriously difficult without you, because your support and faith are irreplaceable for me. I will be rooting for you, my friend, sharing your every success and every failure as my own. The Real Swordsman of Sylvania. Episode 2. The capture of Ophelis Dormitory promises to be full of intense battles and unforgettable heroic deeds. A decent life is practically guaranteed to students with excellent grades from offs. They get first choice of seats in class, have mealtime privileges, have servants and a host of other perks, setting the standard for everyone else. The academy provided carriages and ships only to residents of Ophelis, because if they did not make it back in time, they would be allowed to take advantage of the privilege, setting a precedent of inequality among the student body. The lower-ranking deck students who had to walk back in the rain all the way were afraid of being late and losing valuable points, which added to their frustration and fear. The pent-up discontent finally erupted in front of Ophelis Dormitory when the students decided to give vent to their emotions, demanding justice and equality. All this seemed fair from the point of view of those who fought for their rights, believing that the academy should provide equal conditions for all its students. A proposal was made regarding the return of Ophelis students, which was intended to find a compromise between the various student groups and the academy's administration. During a heavy downpour, this letter was sealed, becoming a symbol of hope for change and the beginning of a dialogue between students and management. The letter was ready to be sent by the hands of the merchant, who undertook to negotiate, promising to be the first step towards resolving the conflict. She contacted in advance the representatives of the lower-ranking students who were most concerned about how to stand up to the academy and Ophelis in order to achieve justice. Discontent was already boiling over, and it was enough for them to provide a simple reason. Violin, who was skilled at provoking and manipulating others with words, pulled the trigger, giving them this excuse through the story of D.G. Chi. The apparently discriminatory treatment of ordinary students who returned to the academy despite the downpour caused widespread outrage. This prompted a proposal to make preemptive changes regarding the deadline for returning to the academy and the requirement to recognize special treatment for Ophelis students. Headmaid Ophelisa and part of the academy's administration analysis department were already on Loratel's side and willing to fervently support her initiative, showing that internal alliances can change power dynamics. In such a situation, the academy would not necessarily accept the changes, but just stating that they are under consideration could be a step towards calming the tension. But the conflict escalated more and more as Ophelis, decorated with works of art donated by noble and wealthy families, became a symbol of inequality. In this context, the more damage that could be done, the better. The ideal scenario would be to deal a blow to the academy's finances, which were already suffering after the Glaskin incident. Negotiating the sealed sage grimoire gave the elite merchant collection an obvious advantage, as the grimoire became the word on Sylvania's heart. But in times of desperation, people are willing to part with their own hearts. I wonder when the rain will end, but there is no light in the gloomy sky, symbolizing the duration and depth of the conflict. The sky she saw in the slums when she wore rags reminded her of the past she wanted to escape from. She can't stop ridiculing herself for feeling relieved in this nervous land of knowledge, where the light is too bright for those accustomed to darkness. The picture of her life in nightmarish darkness, completely covered in dirt, is much more realistic for her than any dreams of a bright future. On her desk lay a plot plan, silent evidence of a conspiracy that had woven the destinies of countless people. He, whose soul was filled only with lack of sincerity, carried the weight of betrayals and constant suspicion. Her desperate attempts to survive made her who she is now, but the essence of her despicable nature remained the same. Even in Sylvania, where only the best were supposed to live among the grandeur and splendor, there was a place for those whose existence resembled that of a mouse immersed in the mud. Her endless search for like-minded people did not stop, despite the fact that only a faint hope smoldered in her heart. She could never change her nature, always staying true to her approach, trying to fight her way through the miserable reality. Her protection, like a screen, hid the dark reality behind her, leaving her secrets invisible to the outside world. The players of fate called it a black veil that enveloped everything around in the shadow of obscurity. This land, full of equality and justice in words, in fact cried out about inequality, like indignant voices outside its windows. "For once, give us equality in grades," they shouted, full of indignation and despair, looking for justice in this world. At the center of the original plot was the story of how the main character stopped the evil students who were provoked by Loratel. In Ophelis, from the 1st to the 5th floor, there were middle bosses who created obstacles for the main character and helped subordinate participants. The middle boss of the 1st floor, Baitbag, once taunted Taylor, calling him a loser, but after a beating from his friends, harbored a grudge and was bribed by Loratel. His task was to overcome the new maid guarding the 1st floor, open the door to Ophelis, and do what few could. He had to launch evil students into Ophelis, ready to do anything. As the students entered the 1st floor, the first stage of the second act began. The middle boss played a specific role, to prevent the main character and his friends from stopping the crime. "Yes, it was Loratel who bribed you?" one of the protagonist's friends asked in surprise. Ed Lost Taylor was originally supposed to play the role, which added an unexpected twist to the story. "How the hell did I become a middle boss?" he exclaimed indignantly, realizing his involuntary position. "Thank you for watching the video. It will be more interesting in the future. Wait for the next part," finished the narrator, intriguing the audience.